Imagine a player with a three-point accuracy of 99%. Even Curry would call him a demon. And yet, despite that, Wang has spent his career wandering the NBA, cut by 8 different teams because no head coach would give him a real chance. On the final day of his 10-day contract with the Lakers, his moment finally arrives. The score is a dismal 80-110. The Lakers are trailing the Warriors by 30 points. As in so many games before, their offense has been utterly stagnant. Their three-point shooting is a painful 3 for 18, while Curry has entered his unstoppable God mode once again. With 11 out of 15 shots made from deep, Curry alone has outscored the entire Lakers team from the perimeter. There are 8 minutes left. Seeing no hope for a comeback, the Lakers coach pulls his stars, including James and Davis. James is currently looking down, preoccupied with taping his fingers, while Davis stares at the court with a mind that is clearly elsewhere. In this atmosphere, the coach shakes his head in frustration, scanning the bench until his eyes land on Wang, a young man from the East. Though his raw talent seemed average and he hadn't seen any playing time, he was always the hardest worker in practice, humble and quiet. The coach genuinely likes him, and since this is the last night of his short contract, he decides to give him a chance to show his worth. The Lakers won't be offering him a second contract, but perhaps another team watching might give him his next job. Even if the odds of that are practically zero, the coach beckons him over. Wang, it's your turn to show us something. Wang had been watching the coach intently. Hearing the call, he feels a sudden rush of adrenaline surge through his chest. He stands up abruptly. After 3 months without a single minute of play, he is finally stepping back onto an NBA court. Suddenly, a voice echoes in his mind. Congratulations to the host for entering the game. The system has been activated. He is rewarded with 10 minutes of God-tier three-point ability. He pauses, but before he can process it, the referee signals him in. He has no choice but to jog onto the court. Meanwhile, in the Tencent NBA broadcast booth across the ocean, the commentators notice the change on screen and casually mention that their countryman, Wang Yi, has entered the game. There is no grand introduction, just a brief mention. After all, he has spent 2 years as a benchwarmer, a name known to few. Currently, neither of the 2 guest commentators has any faith in him. The live stream chat is even worse, filled with insults the moment he appears on screen. They call him a disgrace, telling him to stop embarrassing himself abroad and just come home. It's a far cry from the high hopes they had when he first entered the NBA. Back then, domestic fans praised him to the heavens. But after a wrist injury during practice led to poor performances on the court, the narrative shifted. Combined with the inherent bias many NBA coaches hold against Eastern players, opportunities vanished. Gradually, Wang Yi became nothing more than a marginal benchwarmer. Consequently, most fans back home turned to vitriol, acting as if they wanted to cast him into the depths of hell. A few still understood his struggle, of course. But compared to the sea of haters, their voices were practically invisible. We return to the Staples Center, where the Lakers are taking the ball out of bounds. As the shooting guard, Wang crosses into the opponent's half. The other Lakers on the floor are all deep bench players who only see the light of day during garbage time. Having finally secured some playing time, they are all desperate to prove themselves. To be honest, none of them have any intention of playing as a team. Over the next 2 possessions, the 4 of them each take a shot without making a single one. Instead, the lead widens even further, reaching a staggering 35 points. Finally, on the 3rd possession, the ball finds its way to Wang at the top of the arc. The moment he touches the leather, something changes. His entire spirit seems to sharpen. He feels himself filled with an indescribable power, as if he has suddenly become a veteran of 1,000 battles. His shooting rhythm feels incredibly hot. Seeing the defender standing before him with a lazy, relaxed stance, he doesn't hesitate for a second and leaps into the air. With a textbook form and a slight, elegant fadeaway, the ball carves a beautiful arc through the air. It is, quite simply, a gorgeous sight. The ball snaps through the net, a perfect three-pointer. And yet, this shot goes almost entirely unnoticed by the crowd. Against a massive 30-point deficit, a single three-pointer is like trying to put out a forest fire with a cup of water. In the stands, the mood is indifferent. A third of the audience has already left. Those who remain are mostly chatting or distracted by their phones. Meanwhile, across the ocean, the broadcast continues. In the studio, the 2 commentators are busy discussing team rankings. They don't even seem to notice that their countryman just hit a spectacular shot. The chat, however, is full of sarcastic remarks. Oh look, they sneer, he actually managed to make a three-pointer. They dismiss it as nothing more than pure, dumb luck. But then, as if by fate, the ball finds its way back to him at the top of the arc. Without a moment's hesitation, he rises up to shoot once again. Wang Yi knows his rhythm is unnaturally hot right now. If he doesn't fight for his life to perform, his contract will end tonight, and his career might end with it. Without a contract, his dreams would vanish, and even basic survival would become a struggle. Swish, the ball arcs through the air and finds the net once again. It's another beautiful three-pointer. The score is now 86-115, narrowing the gap to 29 points. However, this single shot still fails to stir any real emotion from the home crowd. Only the Lakers head coach claps his hands vigorously, offering Wang a moment of genuine encouragement. Even LeBron James has stopped biting his nails. He joins in the applause, because as the team leader, he knows he must support a teammate who is finally finding his mark. On the next play, the Warriors commit a turnover, sparking a Lakers fast break. Wang puts his head down and sprints toward the front court with everything he has. He takes his position in the corner. The Lakers' point guard looks to drive for a layup, but the Warriors' defense is quick to recover, with their center already blocking the path. Acting on instinct, the point guard kicks the ball out to Wang. It's basic basketball logic. Really, you always feed the man with the hot hand. Without a hint of hesitation, Wang rises for the shot. Thud, the ball hits the rim with a heavy, dull sound that echoes through the arena. Fortunately, after the initial bounce, the ball hits the backboard and dances on the rim 4 times before finally deciding to drop through the hoop. The score is now 89-115, and the Lakers have cut the lead to 26. This time, a few scattered cheers can be heard from the stands. Hitting 3 consecutive three-pointers in less than a minute has earned him a bit of surprise. But to be honest, that's about all it has earned him. Back in the domestic live stream, the chat is starting to get rowdy again. Since he's hit 2 more shots, the fans are looking for the man who promised to eat something unpleasant. Naturally, that particular commenter has already vanished. Meanwhile, back at the Staples Center, the Warriors head coach immediately calls for a timeout. Even though this Chinese player's 9-point streak seems like a drop in the bucket, the coach isn't taking any chances. He needs to address the defense. He gathers his players around to discuss how to handle this unexpected threat. He points to his best perimeter defender, a man with a distinctive afro. He tells him to stick to the Lakers' number 1. He'd rather let Wang drive to the basket than allow him another open look from beyond the arc. The defender glances over at the distant Eastern player with a cold, mocking smirk. He nods, assuring his coach that he has everything under control. He boasts that he'll make Wang cry for his mother as he crawls all the way back home. Over on the Lakers bench, the atmosphere is quite different. The head coach keeps the instructions simple. Set screens for Wang. He tells Wang to be decisive. If he sees an opening, he should take the shot without a second thought. The coach is actually encouraging him. Deep down, Wang feels a surge of warmth. This is the first time since entering the NBA that a head coach has designed a play specifically for him. Even though it's just a simple screen, the gesture fills him with excitement. He nods firmly, his eyes burning with a newfound, fiery determination. At that moment, the team leader, LeBron James, walks over. He grabs Wang's hand for a heavy high five and greets him with a simple, "Hey, brother." LeBron tells him he liked those 3-pointers, but expects to see even more. Wang nods, standing tall as he confidently replies that LeBron will certainly see them. Meanwhile, in the domestic live stream, the 2 commentators are reviewing the stats during the break. They decide to take a look at the Lakers' scoring leaders. LeBron has 23, Davis has 28, and Wang, he has 9. Reaching that last name, the commentator pauses for a brief, surprised moment. He notes that Wang, their homegrown player, has just hit 2. No, actually, it was 3 consecutive three-pointers. A quick check confirms it, 3 for 3. It's a perfect shooting percentage, and those 9 points represent the highest single-game score of Wang's NBA career. They wonder if he has any more shots left in him, noting that his wrist is injured. To be honest, that last three-pointer didn't look particularly smooth. They speculate he might not attempt another, as the pressure on an injured wrist is simply too great. But as they speak, the game resumes. The Warriors execute a crisp pass-and-cut play to score 2 points, pushing the lead back up to 28. It seems the mountain is only getting taller. We return to the Lakers' offense, where the Warriors' defender with the afro is sticking to Wang like glue. His coach told him to shut the Eastern kid down. He intends to do exactly that, all while muttering a constant stream of trash talk. He mocks Wang, calling him a fragile little player. He asks if Wang even has the strength left to throw another 3, telling him to give up and promising to stick to him like gum until he's crying like a baby. Wang simply ignores the insults. He has always preferred to let his performance on the court do the talking, which is usually the wiser choice anyway. Following the coach's tactical plan, he curls around a screen and once again receives the ball at the top of the key. Under the bright lights, he rises and releases an orange arc swish. The ball hits the dead center of the net, snapping the white mesh with a clean sound. As he pulls back his hand, he glances at the afro-haired defender with a mysterious, knowing smile. It was another perfectly fluid shooting motion. In this moment, he finally realizes that his scorching rhythm tonight is all thanks to the system's super god 3-point ability. He knew it was going in the moment it left his fingers. He wonders if this is how a true master feels, before casting a glance toward Curry on the Warriors' bench. Curry happens to glance over at that moment, while the afro-haired defender follows Wang like a shadow, his mouth still moving incessantly as he claims to be his only true opponent. He warns Wang not to get confused, promising to defend him until he questions his life and crawls back to his country in tears. This time, Wang doesn't just stay silent. In a rare move, he fires back, telling the defender he'll keep shooting until he finally shuts up. To be honest, that only seemed to make the defender even more aggressive. The man chases him while spewing a constant stream of trash talk, but Wang says nothing more, treating the noise like nothing more than a barking dog. Meanwhile, the game shifts. Thanks to those 4 consecutive three-pointers, the lead has been cut to 25 points. Moving from 35 down to 25 felt like it happened in a single instant. On the sidelines, the Lakers players have all stood up in excitement. Even if they lose tonight, those 4 triples in just 90 seconds are nothing short of spectacular. And yet, the show isn't over. On the next play, the Warriors miss their shot, and as the Lakers push forward, Wang calls for the ball the moment he crosses half-court. His performance has already won over his teammates, and the ball naturally finds its way into his hands. Of course, that afro-haired defender is already sticking to him again. Using a teammate's screen, Wang takes a single dribble. The defender gets bumped, creating just a sliver of space, though Wang is still quite far from the three-point line. With only 2 seconds to act before the defender recovers, he realizes there's no time for more dribbling. He stops abruptly, raises the ball, and prepares to fire. With a flick of the wrist, the ball is airborne. Swish! Another three-pointer finds the mark, and suddenly, the lead has shrunk to 22 points. About a third of the crowd stands up to cheer. Even though there are less than 3 minutes left and the gap is still over 20, something special is happening here. They know a comeback is unlikely, but this man from the East, hitting 5 consecutive threes, has reignited their passion. People are starting to realize just how strong he is. Some wonder if he's the Lakers' version of Curry, asking who he even is. Most only know he's on a 10-day contract, but his actual name remains a mystery to them. As the shot goes in, Wang feels a massive surge of adrenaline. His confidence is inflating rapidly, and in this moment, he feels truly unstoppable. To him, the hoop now looks as wide as the ocean. It feels as though no matter how he throws it, the ball will obediently dive right in. Over on the Warriors bench, Curry's eyes are flickering with interest. As the greatest shooter in history and the pioneer of the small ball era, seeing someone else catch fire like this affects him. Watching those 5 consecutive triples has ignited his own competitive spirit. Deep down, he truly wishes he could step back onto the court to duel with this newcomer. However, when he looks at his head coach, the man simply gives a subtle shake of his head. They have the game won, and there is no need to risk their star. On the next possession, the Warriors miss yet another three-pointer. It's the Lakers' turn to attack again, and we see Wang crossing the half-court line once more. As we see him calling for the ball again, the afro-haired defender has finally learned his lesson, positioning himself 2 meters beyond the three-point line. He is determined not to give Wang any room to shoot. Wang dribbles, glancing at his right hand, and seeing this hesitation, the defender grows bolder. He claps his hands loudly, mockingly challenging Wang to try again, even betting $100 that this next shot won't go in. This kind of trash talk is a classic psychological tactic, as long-range shooting is a skill that relies heavily on a player's mental composure. The slightest flicker of doubt can cause a player's form to break, and once the form is gone, the shot is almost guaranteed to miss. But instead of shrinking, Wang's competitive fire is ignited. He continues to dribble, but rather than moving forward, he takes 3 deliberate steps back. His feet land right on the center circle line. The defender flashes a wide, toothy grin, laughing at the idea of a logo three-pointer. He mocks Wang, asking if he thinks he's Stephen Curry and telling the Easterner he must still be dreaming. Meanwhile, in the broadcast booth, the commentators are equally amused. One wonders aloud what this man is doing, while the other joins in on the joke. They question if a Chinese player can even hit a logo shot, suggesting that 5 triples have made him arrogant enough to think he's Curry. There is an undeniable hint of mockery in their voices. However, before they can even finish their sentence, Wang launches the ball from midcourt. From that distance, he has to use every bit of strength in his flick, but the release feels perfect. Deep down, he knows it's going in. While the ball is still soaring through the air, Wang turns his back to the hoop and raises his right hand, flashing the 3-finger sign. He holds the gesture as the ball carves a massive arc through the sky. A second after he signals his confidence, the miracle happens. The ball slams into the hoop like a literal cannonball. Boom! The logo shot is complete. This time, it wasn't a soft swish through the net. It was a display of pure power, a shot that streaked across the half-court line and hammered into the cylinder with incredible force. The impact seems to shake the entire arena, and the crowd instantly erupts in disbelief at the sight of that divine logo 3. Fans are shouting, unable to believe he turned around to celebrate before the ball even landed. To be honest, it was an incredibly cool moment. A logo shot is visually stunning enough on its own, but turning away to celebrate before it even goes in is a different level of showmanship. It is a bold move that even Curry himself rarely attempts. It wasn't just the fans who were stunned. Even the 2 mocking commentators were silenced. The arena commentators can't help but cry out in shock, shouting that they can't believe their eyes. A logo three-pointer. He actually did it. They even start calling him the Lakers' own Stephen Curry. To be honest, that is just how NBA commentators react in the heat of the moment. We see Vogel shaking his head in helpless disbelief, glancing at Curry and finally realizing what it feels like to have a Curry on the opposing team. While Curry himself remains motionless, a fiery light has ignited in his eyes. Meanwhile, the Lakers bench has completely erupted, jumping for joy. The substitutes are waving their towels with everything they've got, and even the starters are leaping up to trade high-fives over this shocking shot. Anthony Davis stands up abruptly, his thick eyebrows raised high and his large eyes filled with pure wonder. LeBron James is also on his feet. LeBron holds up both hands in a 3-point gesture, his expression exaggerated as he repeats, "Oh my God," over and over. Across the ocean, in the NBA broadcast studio, the 2 guest commentators are watching with eyes gleaming in excitement. 6 three-pointers in just 2 minutes. A logo 3 on top of it all. It's simply incredible. Wang Yi, a bench player, has managed to rack up 18 points in 2 minutes. Scoring 18 points so quickly is almost beyond imagination. Because it was supposed to be garbage time, most of the stream's viewers had already left. But those who stayed are flooding the chat with praise, wondering if this is the moment Wang Yi finally rises to greatness. Some fans are swooning over his confidence and celebrating before the ball even went in, though, as always, the haters are never far behind. They scoff, pointing out that he hasn't even scored 100 points in 2 years, claiming he just got lucky with a few shots today. They tell him to come home and stop embarrassing them, challenging him to do it again while lecturing him on the virtues of being humble. One even bets that if Wang hits 8 triples, he'll eat something unpleasant while doing a handstand. Back on the court, however, after sinking that logo shot, Wang's confidence has reached its absolute peak. The lead has now been cut down to just 19 points. This is the feeling he's been chasing. His body trembles with excitement, his blood is burning, and that early celebration felt perfectly natural. Many players have celebrated early. LeBron has done it, and Curry has too. But to do it after a logo shot is something else entirely. Wang is the first to pull it off. He usually believes in staying humble, but basketball, by its very nature, is a sport of bold expression. On the court, one should show their full strength and personality. After all, if you can't be bold while playing, when can you be? As Wang Yi plays with this newfound flair, the afro-haired defender can only watch as the ball splashes through the net and bounces away. His eyes are wide with shock. He looks as if he's seen a ghost, unable to utter a single word for a long time. Wang Yi glances at him and says calmly, "Hey brother, don't forget my $100. The defender finally snaps out of it, cursing and shouting that the Eastern Wolf has truly pissed him off. But Wang has already turned back to defend his own half. On the next possession, the Warriors' attack is shut down. A teammate brings the ball across half-court and hands it to Wang, immediately setting a screen for him. The plan is for Wang to use the screen for a three-pointer, but he's feeling the heat now. He waves his hand, telling his teammate to move aside. He doesn't need it. The teammate shrugs and clears the space. Facing the afro-haired defender, Wang considers beckoning him with a finger, but realizes that would be a taunting foul. He isn't afraid of a technical, but a fine for one is $25,000. For a man on a 10-day contract, that is a staggering amount of money. So he suppresses the urge to taunt and instead says in his less-than-perfect American English, "Come on, brother." To be honest, his confidence is infectious. The defender is now fuming with rage, stepping forward aggressively and spreading his legs wide to lock Wang down. He is determined not to let another one fly. There is only a split-second window of space, but that is all Wang Yi needs to launch another three. On the sidelines, every single Lakers player stands up. We see the entire audience holding their breath, eyes glued to the flight of the ball. Swish. The ball finds the bottom of the net once again. At the same time, the defender lunges so hard that he knocks Wang to the floor. The whistle blows immediately, a defensive foul. It's a chance for a 4-point play. The arena is ignited once more by this incredible shot. 7 3-pointers. My goodness, 21 points in just 2.5 minutes. This scoring explosion is simply beyond belief. People are starting to wonder how a man this strong was only signed to a 10-day short-term contract. The fans are calling for the Lakers to give him a guaranteed deal immediately, fearing another team might snatch him up. Meanwhile, the broadcast booth is in chaos. The two commentators are shouting at the top of their lungs. Wow, this is absolutely one of the most exaggerated performances I've ever seen. It's magical. It truly is magical. However, compared to these two professionals, the fans across the ocean in China are expressing themselves with much more colorful language. Their emotions are overflowing in the chat, filled with shock and disbelief. Back on the court, Wang Yi looks at the afro-haired defender with a sense of triumph. He feels a deep sense of satisfaction. The defender's face has turned as dark as iron. He stopped talking trash entirely. He is speechless. After all, in just over 2 minutes, the man he was supposed to be guarding has dominated him completely. That last shot, in particular, made his defense look utterly useless. Then, Wang Yi pulled up right over his head for a deep three-pointer. It was a shot that didn't just hurt the score. It was a massive blow to the defender's pride. The defender no longer had the nerve to talk trash. It was almost comical, considering he had just vowed to shut down this Eastern Wolf only moments ago. Instead of stopping Wang, he was left completely defenseless as the shots kept falling. After Wang calmly sank the bonus free throw, we look at the scoreboard. The Lakers now trail 97-112, down by only 15 points. The gap has shrunk from 35 to 15 in what feels like a single heartbeat. Normally, being down 15 with 2.5 minutes left means the game is over. But after this wild performance, we find ourselves doubting that logic. Who would dare be so certain? If he hits 2 more threes, the lead drops to single digits. Sensing the danger, the Warriors' head coach calls another timeout. He is visibly frustrated, shouting at his players to double-team Wang Yi. "Double him. Get 2 men on him," he demands, his voice echoing through the huddle. The players are stunned, wondering if they heard him correctly. The plan is simple. The moment Wang touches the ball, they must swarm him and force a pass. They cannot, under any circumstances, let him take another shot from deep. The players exchange looks of disbelief as they head back onto the floor. As play resumes, the Warriors follow orders and immediately trap Wang Yi. Even the commentators can't help but laugh at the absurdity of the scene. My goodness, are you seeing this? One announcer shouts. The other joins in with a laugh. The Warriors are actually using a double-team strategy on a 10-day contract player. To be honest, it is a massive sign of respect. The crowd is loving the spectacle, but Wang Yi isn't smiling. Even with the system's help, things are getting difficult. His wrist injury still flares up with every dribble. Faced with two defenders, he is forced to pass the ball quickly, hoping his open teammates can capitalize. Unfortunately, his teammates missed two consecutive three-pointers. Despite the setbacks, Wang continues to sprint around screens, tirelessly hunting for an opening. In the final 2.5 minutes, he manages to find two more windows of space, burying two more incredible three-pointers. Each shot sends the arena into a frenzy. The fans are screaming his name with every basket. Finally, the buzzer sounds, and the final score settles at 111 to 118. The Lakers lose by only 7 points. However, looking at the crowd, there isn't a single face filled with disappointment. They know they've witnessed something special. They begin chanting his jersey number in unison. Number 1, number 1. Even in defeat, the atmosphere is more electric than most victories. The team leader, LeBron, walks over immediately. He gives Wang a powerful hug and whispers in his ear, "Brother, you actually did it." 28 points in 5 minutes. LeBron thanks him for such a legendary performance, and even the star Anthony Davis comes over to show his respect. It is a strange sight. The Lakers lost the game, yet they act as if they won. Meanwhile, the Warriors players look solemn and even a bit depressed despite their victory. Their head coach, in particular, is breaking out in a cold sweat. Having a 30-point lead with only 5 minutes left should have guaranteed a dominant blowout. Instead, they were nearly overtaken. Had they actually lost, he likely would have been pinned to a pillar of historical shame, and the Warriors would never have lived it down. Following tradition, the key players from both sides meet to shake hands. We see the Warriors star, Curry, making his way across the court. He first shares a hug with LeBron and Anthony Davis, exchanging a few words before his eyes lock onto Wang Yi, and he begins walking toward him. A flash of competitive spirit shines in his eyes as he tells Wang that his three-pointers are incredibly strong. Wang immediately replies that Curry's shot isn't exactly weak either. At that, Curry's face breaks into his signature, boyish smile. Even with the beard he's grown, that grin remains as charmingly mischievous as ever. Suddenly, Wang learns that the general manager is looking for him. His heart skips a beat. His 10-day contract has expired, and usually, a team just calls your agent to let you go. A general manager only asks for a face-to-face meeting when they intend to offer a renewal. To be honest, this is the moment he has been waiting for. LeBron, standing nearby, is genuinely happy for his teammate. He smiles and tells Wang that he told him tonight would be the start of his good fortune. After a quick word of thanks, Wang hurries toward the office of the general manager, Rob Pelinka. It is time to see if his hard work has truly paid off. Pelinka is a quiet, observant man. He is often seen standing at the far end of the stands, watching the team play in total silence. No one ever quite knows what he is thinking. Now, sitting behind his desk as Wang enters, he simply says that Wang's performance tonight was a surprise to everyone. He notes that with Schroeder still out on injury, the backcourt is still missing a reliable scorer who can change the momentum of a game. He then asks if Wang would be willing to sign another 10-day contract. Pelinka certainly has a way with words, framing it as a request rather than a demand. He didn't say, "We are willing to sign you," but rather, "Are you willing to sign with us?" It is a subtle difference, but one that carries a great deal of weight. The former would place the team in a position of power, while the latter shows genuine respect for the player. And who wouldn't appreciate that? Wang had suspected his performance would move the front office, but hearing it directly from the general manager still fills him with a quiet joy. He thanks Pelinka, stating he has no reason to refuse. Securing another 10-day contract is a victory in itself, even if a guaranteed long-term deal isn't on the table yet. The Lakers aren't ready for that commitment just yet. After all, in about a week, their starting point guard, Schroeder, is expected to make his return. By then, the backcourt will be crowded again, making a guaranteed contract unlikely unless he can prove himself during this second 10-day window. Thinking of this, Wang remembers the system in his mind and clenches his fists as Pelinka continues speaking. This second 10-day contract is worth $20,000, a figure Pelinka hopes will be satisfactory, and Wang nods immediately in agreement. He expresses his gratitude, feeling quite satisfied. After all, short contracts can range from a few thousand to over $10,000. His previous contract was only $8,000, so this jump to $20,000 will certainly make his daily life much easier. Leaving the manager's office, we see Caruso waiting for him. Since Wang is staying at his house, they travel to home games together. Caruso asks if it was a guaranteed deal, and upon hearing it is another short contract, he offers a supportive pat on the shoulder. He tells Wang that if he maintains tonight's performance, a guaranteed contract is inevitable, and Wang simply nods without saying much more. Back at Caruso's place, after a simple dinner, Wang lies down on his bed in the garage when that cold electronic voice returns. The legendary superstar system has activated, issuing a training task. Make 1,000 three-pointers to earn a specific reward. The reward is a permanent three-point shooting percentage increase to 45%, a thought that keeps him awake all through the night. To be honest, a permanent 45% shooting rate is an almost exaggerated reward for a single task. That level of accuracy defines a truly elite shooter. Even someone as dominant as Curry has a career average below 45%. In the entire history of the NBA, only the Warriors' head coach, Steve Kerr, surpassed that mark during his playing career. Wang never expected the system's very first reward to be so powerful, especially since the Lakers desperately need a stable shooter. While players like Pope, Kuzma, Schroeder, and Tucker can all shoot from deep, their actual percentages are often quite inconsistent. In this modern era of small ball, playing without a reliable outside threat is a constant struggle, making Wang's potential upgrade truly terrifying. Imagine the impact of such a high percentage. By 4 in the morning, long before dawn, Wang is already eager to start. He hurries to the Lakers' training facility, where the drowsy security guard recognizes the new 10-day contract player and lets him in. The guard looks out at the pitch-black sky and mutters to himself about how incredibly hard-working this young man from the East is. Wang asks LeBron to speak with the coach, explaining that he wants to focus specifically on three-pointers since the team lacks a stable shooter. LeBron thinks it over and nods. After all, a player in Wang's current position certainly doesn't have the power to disrupt the coach's training plan. Only a superstar with absolute authority like LeBron can make such requests, though he rarely chooses to exercise that kind of influence. Today, however, he makes an exception for Wang, and by 10 o'clock, the rest of the team begins to trickle into the facility. Most of them look like they've just woken up, and seeing Wang and LeBron already drenched in sweat has become a familiar sight. While the others follow the coach's scheduled drills, we see Wang tucked away in the corner, relentlessly practicing his three-pointers until 4 in the afternoon. As the official practice ends and players begin to leave, Wang is only 11 shots away from his goal, and LeBron decides to stay behind too. LeBron continues his own extra training, but watching Wang's almost manic shooting, he realizes the young man has been at it all day without even stopping for lunch. Deep down, LeBron is genuinely stunned, standing still just to watch as Wang's physical energy reaches its absolute limit during those final 11 shots. It takes nearly 60 attempts to sink them, but finally, as the last ball ripples through the net, that cold electronic voice echoes in his mind once more. The task is complete, and his permanent three-point shooting percentage is officially raised to 45%, allowing him to finally breathe a sigh of relief. He collapses onto the floor, limbs spread wide like a star, while LeBron and Caruso wait in a respectful, heavy silence. After gasping for air for 2 full minutes, he turns to them with a smile and asks if they believe that in tomorrow's game against the Clippers, they can put their full trust in him. LeBron and Caruso exchange a look, remembering his mediocre practice percentage and wondering where this confidence comes from. The following evening at 8 o'clock, the highly anticipated battle against their city rivals, the Los Angeles Clippers, is finally about to begin. As both teams finish their pregame warm-ups, the Clippers guard, the Mad Dog Beverly, proactively approaches his coach with a request. He demands to guard LeBron, and Coach Tyronn Lue agrees without a second thought, giving him the green light to shadow the king. Beverly's eyes light up like a hound spotting its prey. He may not be the tallest player on the court, but his tenacity is legendary. Once he steps onto the hardwood, he behaves like a predator, relentlessly biting at the heels of the opposing team's core stars. Even a player as dominant as Kevin Durant has been neutralized by his defense before, resulting in both of them being ejected in the heat of the moment. Because of this, Beverly is usually deployed to guard the opponent's primary scoring threat, and he does it with relish. The Clippers' other defensive powerhouse is Leonard, famous for his death grip defense, but as the team's core, he must conserve energy. Under normal circumstances, Coach Tyronn Lue wouldn't waste Leonard's stamina on the main threat, especially since, in Lue's eyes, LeBron is now an aging shadow of his former self, hardly requiring Leonard's elite defense. Soon enough, the game begins. We see Wang sitting at the very end of the bench once again, keeping one eye on the fierce battle unfolding on the court. At the same time, he keeps his focus on Coach Vogel, terrified of missing even the slightest signal to enter the game. With both teams so evenly matched, the game is bound to be a grind. In such high stakes, the coach is unlikely to risk playing him. But as a professional, he knows he must be ready at a moment's notice. And so, the whistle blows and the action starts. The broadcast features commentators Wang Ming and Soo Koon, alongside the popular host Maina, who is a well-known LeBron superfan. Naturally, whenever the Lakers play, she is there to host. Wang Ming opens the discussion by bringing up the previous game. He notes how Wang hit 9 three-pointers in the final 5 minutes to score 28 points, an absolutely explosive performance. He asks Soo Koon if he thinks Wang will play tonight. Soo Koon smiles while flipping through his data sheets. He admits that Wang's last performance stunned everyone, and the Lakers' decision to sign him to a 10-day contract shows they value his shooting. However, since this game is expected to be a neck-and-neck struggle, Soo Koon believes the chances of Wang playing are slim. Wang Ming agrees with the analysis, though we can tell they are both still hoping for another explosive surprise from the young man. In the live stream's chat, many fans are already calling for Wang Yi to take the court, claiming they haven't watched the Lakers since Yao Ming retired. Seeing a fellow countryman drop 28 points in 5 minutes was a shock to the system, though the critics outnumber the fans. They argue it was just one game, and they still lost. After all, scoring 100 points means nothing if you can't win the game. They claim it was just luck during garbage time with no defense, and doubt he could repeat it under pressure, if he even plays at all. Wang Yi, sitting in the arena, has no idea about this online chatter, and to be honest, he wouldn't care even if he did. Wang Yi has endured more than his fair share of online vitriol and slander back home, which has forged a remarkably resilient spirit. He is now completely immune to verbal attacks. On the court, the mad dog, Beverly, sticks to LeBron, relentlessly spewing trash talk. His movements are aggressive, and since LeBron is older now, his playstyle has shifted toward conserving energy for the long haul. Consequently, he rarely attacks in the first half, mostly facilitating from the top of the key. Luckily, the Lakers shooters are stepping up. They go 5 for 11 from deep in the first half, trailing by only 2 at the break. But in the third quarter, everything changes. The momentum shifts suddenly. LeBron intends to drive and kick to the perimeter, but the Lakers' three-point shooting suddenly goes cold. They fall back into their old, stagnant habits, missing 3 consecutive shots while the Clippers respond by sinking 4 in a row. The lead balloons to 14 points in an instant, forcing Coach Vogel to call a timeout to emphasize perimeter defense. However, emphasizing defense is useless if the Lakers can't score themselves, and as we see after the timeout, things only get worse. The Clippers drain 2 more triples, and because the Lakers can't hit a shot, the Clippers collapse their defense into a tight zone. LeBron finds no room to drive, leaving the Lakers searching for outside looks, but the more they rush, the more they miss. By the time 6 minutes remain in the third quarter, the Lakers find themselves trailing by a staggering 20 points. Vogel suddenly recalls Wang Yi's words about being trustworthy. Thinking of this, he leans in and whispers something to LeBron. LeBron's eyes light up as he glances toward Wang Yi. Meanwhile, across the ocean in the broadcast booth, the deficit is the only topic. The two commentators begin brainstorming ways for the Lakers to recover. Wang Ming turns to his colleague, Toon, with a question. He notes that Mana is visibly anxious, and for the sake of a better game and Mana's sanity, he asks for a solution. Toon chuckles at the light-hearted tone before turning serious, noting that the Lakers' current problem is obvious to the entire world. They are struggling against the zone defense. In just a few minutes, Caruso has missed twice, while the others have fared no better. Kuzma, Tarak, Davis, and LeBron have all missed attempts. Combined, these 5 primary options are shooting a dismal 1 for 6. With a shooting percentage like that, any other team would have crumbled completely. It is only the Lakers' defense keeping them afloat. The fact that they are only down by 20 points is a minor miracle. Their problem remains the three-pointer, a necessity in this modern small ball era. If you can't shoot from deep, every opponent becomes a mountain. Wang Ming nods, agreeing with Toon, and wonders if Coach Vogel might be bold. He asks if using Wang Yi might help. Toon replies that it's up to Vogel now, hoping he doesn't wait until garbage time like the last game. We all saw Wang Yi's explosive performance last time, so why not try him now, before the game is completely out of reach? On the live stream, fans are echoing this sentiment, calling for Brother E to get on the court, though, naturally, the haters have their own opinions. They argue that if the starters and the second unit can't solve the problem, expecting a benchwarmer to save the day is simply naive. Some even suggest he should just come home instead of embarrassing himself, predicting he'll be glued to the bench. Meanwhile, back at the arena, the Lakers call another timeout. LeBron approaches Coach Vogel, intending to make a suggestion, but before he can even finish his sentence, Vogel nods, deciding to let Wang Yi try. Vogel is actually quite a daring coach. He had already considered putting the young man in. However, seeing LeBron's influence, Vogel didn't bring it up himself. He waited for LeBron to make the request instead. As the team leader, if LeBron suggests it, the other players are more likely to accept it, which helps maintain team unity. Vogel also knows this will earn him LeBron's favor. When dealing with a superstar of that caliber, a little tact goes a long way. Whether a star player obeys the coach's plan can decide the game. Clearly, Vogel's emotional intelligence is remarkably high. He beckons with a smile, telling Wang Yi he looks ready to play. Wang Yi snaps up like a coiled spring, practically bursting with energy. He trots over to the coach, who tells him that LeBron recommended him for the floor. Vogel simply adds, "Don't let us down." Wang Yi feels a surge of heat in his chest as he nods firmly. At that exact moment, a cold, electronic voice rings out in his mind. He has successfully checked into the game, earning a beginner death crawl defense card. To be honest, he couldn't be more thrilled. With a 45% three-point average and this new defensive boost, he realizes he is about to become something special. He is transforming into a top-tier 3D player, exactly what the Lakers need. Thinking quickly, he makes a bold request to the coach. He asks to guard Leonard, whose relentless drives have been forcing the Lakers' defense to collapse all night. This is exactly how the Clippers have been creating so many three-point opportunities. If someone could just stop Leonard's drives, then those open looks would vanish. Coach Vogel is a bit surprised, though, because he knows Wang Yi's lateral speed isn't exactly elite. Since his defense is usually considered average at best, it's quite a shock to see him volunteer to guard a machine like Leonard. With a steady gaze, he tells the coach to give him just 2 possessions, and if he fails, he'll step aside. To be honest, he's being modest. The Lakers have already rotated through almost every defender they have, and none of them could stop Leonard. So why not let him try? Of course, he can't say that out loud without hurting team morale, so he leaves it for the coach to realize. Vogel ponders this for a moment. He quickly catches the young man's drift and nods, giving him 3 possessions instead. Wang Yi nods back, his fists clenching with determination. He looks over at Leonard on the Clippers bench like a wolf eyeing its prey. And just like that, the timeout ends. As we see him step onto the court with the rest of the Lakers, the commentators can't help but take notice of his arrival. The Eastern player who hit 9 triples in 5 minutes is back. We'll see if he can recreate that magic. It's a home game for the Lakers today. The fans at Staples Center begin to cheer, though the energy is a bit muted. After all, the team is still trailing by a significant margin. Furthermore, many fans still don't recognize this bench player who only arrived 10 days ago. Meanwhile, in the livestream chat, the haters immediately start popping up the moment they see him. They mock the fact that he's actually getting playing time again. The Lakers go on the offensive, and as the ball reaches the frontcourt, LeBron holds it at the top of the key while the Clippers maintain their zone. LeBron scans his teammates and finally lets his gaze settle on the young man. Wang, he calls out, setting the play in motion. The crisp sound of the ball snapping through the net echoes through the arena speakers. It's a sound every shooter loves to hear. The Lakers DJ immediately bellows over the microphone. 3 points from Wang Yi. The pronunciation is a bit off, but the energy is there. He closes his eyes for a brief second to savor the moment as LeBron comes over for a high five, telling him to enjoy the ride. Caruso joins in too. It seems what he said yesterday was true. Clippers coach Tyronn Lue sees the shot, but isn't worried. It's just 1 3-pointer. After all, the rest of the Clippers aren't concerned either. They've done their scouting and know he had a lucky 5-minute streak in the last game. Scoring 93 points is one thing, but a performance this extraordinary usually only happens once in a lifetime, much like T-Mac's legendary 13 points in 35 seconds. The Clippers are convinced he can't possibly repeat that miracle 2 games in a row, so coach Tyronn Lue decides not to make any defensive adjustments. Now it's the Clippers' turn to attack, and we see Wang Yi step up directly to face their core star, Leonard. Given his natural physical gifts, it should be impossible for him to shut down a giant like Leonard, but he immediately activates his death grip skill. In an instant, he feels his footwork sharpen and his lateral speed increase. Meanwhile, Patrick Beverley brings the ball across half court like a man possessed. He hands the ball off to Leonard, and Wang Yi is right there, feet planted firmly in front of him. The commentators are visibly taken aback by the sight. They can't believe their eyes. This young man is actually trying to primary guard Leonard, despite being half a head shorter than the superstar. He's significantly lighter too, leading many to assume he'll be torn apart. One has to wonder what Coach Vogel was thinking with this matchup. In the live stream chat, the haters are having a field day, mocking him for seeking out such a beating by trying to guard the claw. They assume he's grown arrogant after hitting a single lucky 3-pointer. To be honest, the height difference alone makes the challenge seem absurd. Leonard could easily ignore him, either shooting over him or simply using his strength to drive through. Most expect him to be crushed instantly. However, Leonard doesn't settle for a jumper, as that isn't his preferred way to score. He favors a more calculated approach, driving halfway to the rim, then pulling up for a sudden mid-range shot. He bounces the ball to his right, intending to blow past his defender, but Wang Yi is watching. By reading the twitch of Leonard's shoulder, he anticipates the move and slides his feet perfectly to block the path. Leonard, finding his way barred, pivots on his left foot for a smooth spin to the left. Yet, just as he completes the turn and brings the ball around, a hand reaches out with predatory precision, intercepting the ball midair. Leonard's hand meets nothing but empty space. Wang Yi secures the steal on the spot, and at that exact moment, a familiar figure is already sprinting toward the other end of the court. He looks up, sees LeBron James, and fires a powerful one-handed pass downcourt. LeBron catches it, takes one bounce, and leaps into the air. With a thunderous crash, he delivers a signature tomahawk slam that instantly ignites the entire arena. The cameras focus entirely on LeBron, replaying the spectacular dunk over and over again. Sadly, very few people noticed the brilliant steal and assist that made it all possible. LeBron, however, isn't the type to forget. He heads back to the backcourt to give Wang Yi a high five, shouting excitedly, "Brother, beautiful work." Even Leonard turns back to look at him. Though his expression remains calm, every superstar has a prideful fire. If you steal from them, they'll want it back. Patrick Beverley naturally understands this dynamic. After bringing the ball across half court, his first instinct is to feed the ball right back to Leonard. But Wang Yi is one step ahead. He adopts a front-guarding stance, denying Leonard any easy opportunity to even touch the ball. Unable to find Leonard, Beverley is forced to pass to Paul George on the other side. Facing Anthony Davis's stifling defense, George's forced shot misses the mark. On the return, the Lakers go on the offensive. The Clippers stick to their zone defense, while Wang Yi actively hunts for space at the left corner 3-point line. Playing alongside LeBron makes life much simpler. As a shooter, we see that all you really need to do is find your spot and wait. Sure enough, LeBron fakes a drive to collapse the defense before whipping a perfect pass to Wang Yi in the corner. Paul George lunges toward him. To be honest, George has become a professional background character for legendary shots over the last 20 years. He's been on the receiving end of game winners from LeBron, Lillard, Wade, Booker, and even Jimmy Butler, twice. The list of people who have hit daggers over him could practically circle the globe. Ironically, this is only because his defense is so elite that he's always the one assigned to the final play. But in this moment, facing George's desperate closeout, Wang Yi doesn't hesitate. He releases the shot with the cold precision of a closer. Swish. Another 3 points, another perfect swish. The 20-point lead has vanished. In less than a minute, he's cut it down to just 12. The arena erupts in cheers, forcing the Clippers head coach to call an immediate timeout. In the broadcast booth, Wang Ming is shouting in disbelief. 2 threes in a single minute. He wonders aloud if Wang Yi is about to replicate the miracle from the previous game. Su Kun, ever the rational analyst, weighs in. He notes that such a legendary performance is a once-in-a-lifetime event. It's almost impossible to see it twice. However, if Wang Yi can simply maintain a high percentage, it would be a godsend for the Lakers. During the timeout, the Clippers coach points a finger directly at Patrick Beverley. The head coach of the quick pass team, Yuan, turned to Beverley, the wind dog, with a very specific instruction: get out there and bite the opponent to death. In this context, being called a dog isn't an insult. It represents loyalty and tenacity. The nickname Mad Dog is actually a badge of honor for Beverley. It speaks to his frenzied competitive spirit and his absolute devotion to the team. When it comes to the game, he is always hungry for the win. Beverley actually takes pride in that nickname. He assures the coach he'll bite down and not let go as the timeout ends and play resumes. The Clippers coach has made his adjustments. Whenever Leonard is on the offensive, Wang Yi is to stay glued to him with a suffocating defense. Leonard finally manages to receive the ball using a screen, but the moment he touches it, a ghost-like hand swipes at the ball. Snap! The ball hits the floor instantly. While Leonard dives desperately to recover it, Wang Yi has already lunged forward like a shadow, anticipating the play. Seeing Anthony Davis already sprinting toward the front court, Wang Yi flicks the ball with his left hand, sending it chasing after him. Davis catches it cleanly. Another thunderous dunk follows, and the arena erupts once more. The commentators exclaim that while Davis's dunk was great, they can no longer ignore Wang Yi. We see that he has now shut down Leonard for 3 consecutive possessions. To be honest, stopping a superstar like Leonard 3 times in a row is an incredibly rare feat in this league. It's clear now that everyone had vastly underestimated Wang Yi's defensive capabilities. His three-pointer is elite, but his defense is just as sharp. He is the quintessential 3D player, which is exactly what the Lakers need right now alongside LeBron and Davis. With stars like them, the role players' jobs become quite simple: defend and hit threes. These are the 2 things Wang Yi excels at. He is a perfect match for the Lakers' core duo. The front office should really be considering a guaranteed contract for him at this point. Hearing the commentators' praise, Wang Yi lets a meaningful smile play on his lips. A 3D player? His ambitions go far beyond that label. By now, the lead has been whittled down to just 10 points. With the gap closing, Beverley is assigned to shadow Wang Yi exclusively. He sticks to him like glue, using his body to bump and disrupt him. All the while, he's spewing trash talk, telling the Easterner that hitting 2 threes doesn't make him special. It's a classic psychological tactic, really. He claims it was only because he wasn't defending him yet, boasting that Wang Yi won't even touch the ball now. Wang Yi knows exactly how Beverley operates. He knows this man will use constant physical contact and insults to try and provoke a reaction. If you lose your temper, he wins. So, Wang Yi keeps his cool. He proactively moves to use a screen from Davis, knowing that as a high-quality shooter, he can't just stand around. You have to learn to navigate screens and create your own space if you want the ball to find you. Sure enough, he finds an opening. LeBron's pass arrives the instant he finds daylight. He catches the ball at the arc just as Beverley scrambles to fight through Davis's screen. Beverley lunges toward him, and while he can't actually block the shot, he swings his right hand violently toward Wang Yi's face. Wang Yi feels a flicker of hesitation. Although he still gets the shot off, that momentary mental distraction causes the ball to rattle off the rim. As for Beverley, his hand stops just 2 inches from Wang Yi's face before he pulls back, avoiding any actual physical contact. Wang Yi frowns, knowing Beverley's reputation for playing dirty. He had instinctively braced himself, expecting a genuine blow to the face. A slap would be one thing, but a stray finger to the eye like Draymond Green is known for would be far worse. It seems his mental fortitude isn't quite unshakable yet. However, he learns quickly, and he won't let himself fall into the same trap twice. Meanwhile, in the NBA streaming room, the commentators note that the magic seems to have faded. Yes, of course. They remark that this is a more normal shooting percentage, as hitting every single shot would be truly terrifying. On the screen, the haters see the missed shot and immediately start jumping for joy, claiming his true colors are showing and his luck has run out. They argue he only looked good because the defense was soft, but now that Beverley is playing physical, he's folding instantly. The comments turn nasty, mocking his physique and claiming he collapsed before the mad dog even started biting. They tell him to go home. They say he's embarrassing his country. Back on the court, however, Wang Yi isn't discouraged by the single missed shot. With a 45% shooting average, it's impossible for every ball to go in. We return to the action as he faces Leonard again. This time, Leonard uses a screen from Zubac to finally shake off the defense and sink a mid-range jumper. The lead stretches back to 12 points. As Wang Yi prepares to inbound, LeBron catches the ball and asks if he still dares to shoot. Wang Yi responds with a confident smile, telling him he'll shoot as long as LeBron dares to pass. LeBron isn't sure where this confidence comes from. His performance tonight hasn't been nearly as explosive as the last game, yet his self-belief remains unshaken. Perhaps it's because of yesterday's training. James dribbled into the front court, deep in thought, while our protagonist slipped past Nongmei's screen to reach the left 45-degree three-point line. At this moment, his back is to the basket, and Beverly is chasing him like a man possessed, refusing to give him an inch of space. LeBron's pass is already in the air. Wang Yi catches it with his back to the hoop and suddenly leaps, spinning his body while midair. Leaning his upper body back, he extends his right foot slightly to maintain balance, raises his left arm, and flicks his wrist for the shot. This ball doesn't follow a graceful arc. Instead, it travels on a flat trajectory at incredible speed. Like a high-speed projectile, it slams into the hoop with a thunderous sound. Meanwhile, Beverly had assumed that after catching the ball, Wang Yi would at least turn around before jumping. He never expected a turnaround shot while midair, leaving him no time to block it. He only hears the crash behind him as the stadium DJ's voice booms through the speakers. Three-pointer from Wang Yi. Hearing that strange, foreign name, Beverly clenches his fist and mutters a curse under his breath before continuing his barrage of trash talk. He tells Wang Yi he's just lucky, but our protagonist simply offers a calm smile, completely ignoring the insults, which, naturally, is the best response. Beverly, however, feels his temper rising, usually when he targets stars with his constant chatter and aggressive posturing. They lose their cool and start playing recklessly, which always plays right into the Clippers' hands. But this man is different. Despite the constant verbal assault, he isn't angry at all. Instead, he wears a look of mild disdain. It's the look an adult gives a misbehaving child who is testing boundaries, a faint smile that says he isn't bothered in the least. To be honest, besides his fierce defense, Beverly's imagination is quite vivid. We see him bring the ball across half-court to find Leonard. This time, Wang Yi isn't sticking to Leonard like glue. He keeps a step of distance while occasionally glancing toward Paul George. Beverly assumes he's trying to prevent a pass to George, so he feels confident enough to send the ball toward Leonard. But at that exact moment, Wang Yi pounces like a leopard, intercepting the ball mid-air with perfect timing. It turns out that looking at Paul George was merely a clever deception to trick the offense into thinking he was distracted. In reality, his focus never left Leonard for a second. After the steal, he quickly dribbles toward the front court with his left hand. Behind him, a shadow is already in hot pursuit. It is, of course, the mad dog, Beverly, chasing him down with relentless intensity. Because of the injury to his right hand, Wang Yi is forced to rely entirely on his left, which makes his pace slightly slower than usual. By the time he crosses the half-court line, Beverly has already caught up to him, refusing to let him go. Beverly keeps reaching in from the side to disrupt the dribble, his mouth never stopping as he vows that not another single point will be scored. Glancing to the side, we see Caruso has already caught up, creating a perfect 2-on-1 opportunity. However, under such intense physical pressure, it's difficult for Wang Yi to make a one-handed pass, so he simply hardens his resolve. If a pass isn't possible, he won't make one. As he reaches the three-point line, he suddenly pulls up, gathers the ball, and jumps, leaving the mad dog with no time to react. Beverly is sent flying 5 meters away by the feint. Wang Yi raises his arm, flicks his wrist, and releases a shot as smooth as silk. The ball leaves his fingertips, spinning backward toward the hoop until, swish, it finds the center of the net once again. The lead has shrunk to just 6 points, and the 20,000 fans in attendance erupt into a deafening, tidal wave of cheers. Hearing that roar, Wang Yi feels a surge of adrenaline. He turns to look at Beverly, whose brow is now furrowed in deep frustration. Beverly stares back, finding this opponent utterly unrecognizable. He has played against players from the East before, but in his memory, they were never this fast or explosive, usually favoring a much milder style of play. To be honest, he used to disdain defending them. But this man is different. Those three-pointers are like daggers piercing the very heart of the defense. At this moment, Clippers coach Tyronn Lue calls for another timeout. Only 2 minutes have passed since the last one, but the situation has changed completely. The 12-point lead has been cut in half. Since this is the Lakers' home court, the coach knows that if they are caught now, the Lakers' momentum will become unstoppable. As the Clippers gather, Tyronn Lue points toward Wang Yi from a distance. He tells Leonard that he is now responsible for the primary defense. Hearing this, Beverly can't help but feel a sting of disappointment. He was just beginning to relish the challenge of facing number one, but it seems the coach no longer trusts his defense. And who could blame him? Under his watch, that guy just hit 2 more threes and contributed 2 steals. In those 2 minutes, he was essentially outplayed. If he were the head coach, he would have made the switch too. Leonard looks over from a distance, saying nothing, merely nodding his head. He has always been a man of few words. Standing just over 2 meters tall, Leonard possesses a terrifying wingspan of 2.21 meters. Combined with those unnaturally large hands, he is a living nightmare for any opponent, especially for anyone trying to dribble the ball. His long arms and massive hands mean he might not just disrupt the ball, but steal it entirely. His defense is known as the Death Claw. Many great offensive players have suffered against Leonard. Even someone as strong as James was once left frustrated by his relentless defense. He nods, acknowledging the task. Usually, when an opponent's scoring becomes too fierce, Leonard is the one sent in to shut them down. Over on the Lakers side, Coach Vogel is briefing the team on their next moves. We've seen a few three-pointers going lately, but that doesn't mean the whole team's shooting has opened up. In fact, only Wang Yi is finding his mark, so they will likely continue their four-man zone defense while keeping one person chasing Wang. So, Wang, you can't stop moving, the coach warns. Wang Yi nods, promising to use screens to find open space. Vogel gives him an encouraging pat as they prepare to head back out. With the defense distracted, our opportunity arrives. James claps Wang on the shoulder, asking if he can help them turn the score around. Davis also gives him a supportive tap, hoping he can lead them to victory. Meanwhile, off to the side, we see a different story. Tucker, who was swapped out for Wang, looks a bit dejected. If Wang continues this stellar performance, Tucker's spot in the rotation is at risk. But he knows this is the cold reality of competitive sports. If you perform well, you are adored. If you don't, you are forgotten. The timeout ends, and we return to the action. The Clippers are on the attack, while Leonard prepares to unleash his signature defense. Paul George steps up for the Clippers, sinking a two-pointer that pushes the lead back up to 8. Now, it's the Lakers' turn. The Clippers stick to their four-man zone, leaving Leonard to shadow Wang Yi like a ghost, denying him any chance to catch the ball. The commentators quickly pick up on the shift. Look at that. Leonard has actually started guarding Wang personally. For a player on a 10-day contract to be primary guarded by Leonard is a rare honor. One has to wonder how he'll fare now. Whether he can still hit those threes under such pressure is hard to say. To be honest, the odds have just shifted significantly. With Leonard on him, things are going to get difficult. That Death Claw defense is certainly no joke. If he hits 2 more threes over Leonard, I'll eat a keyboard on a live stream. Brother Xiong scoffs, reappearing with his usual skepticism. Back at the Staples Center, the game resumes. Leonard, moving with robotic precision, stares Wang down, refusing to give him an inch. Especially with those long arms and massive hands waving in front of you. It's like trying to pass through a small tree. This is the true terror of the Death Claw defense. In this moment, Wang Yi spins quickly and cuts toward the interior. Leonard, naturally, stays glued to him. Wang runs into the Clippers' zone, skillfully weaving around their power forward. He then sprints to the left corner for a three-pointer. Leonard is larger, so navigating through his own teammates isn't as easy. His teammates can't simply step aside for him either, as doing so would completely break their defensive formation. Seeing Wang already at the three-point line, Leonard pushes past his teammates to give chase, but Wang has found his opening. Wang catches the pass from Caruso and raises his arms. Leonard is still 3 meters away, but he leaps desperately to contest. He soars toward Wang like a giant bird. One has to admit, his height, vertical, and wingspan are truly elite talents. Even from 3 meters away, that leap could completely smother a shot, but Wang Yi is no fool, of course. It was merely a pump fake. He waits for the flying Leonard to sail over his head before finally releasing the shot. Swish. The three-pointer drops, cutting the lead to 5. The stadium erupts once more as the big screen flashes his image. The DJ's voice echoes through the arena again, announcing another three-pointer from Wang. On the next play, the Clippers attack. Wang Yi is now the one sticking to Leonard like glue as Leonard receives the ball. Seeing Wang so close, Leonard turns to dribble, using his body to bump Wang back and create space for a jumper. However, with the Death Claw trial card active, Wang's reactions are lightning fast. He recovers instantly and steps forward. Just as Leonard raises the ball to shoot, Wang swings his left arm. Smack! A clean, powerful block right in his face. He shuts Leonard down completely. Caruso, ever alert, grabs the loose ball and immediately pushes the pace down the court. Wang follows quickly, heading straight for the corner. Paul George is in pursuit, preventing Caruso from taking it to the rim. Caruso spots Wang in the corner and whips the ball over. Wang prepares to jump, but Beverly has also rushed back to help. So, he uses another pump fake. Beverly is completely fooled, flying right past him, but Leonard has already caught up as well. We see Wang Yi use yet another pump fake, sending Leonard flying, though he knows shooting now would mean getting blocked by a recovering Beverly. So he takes a large dribble to the right, evading Beverly's fingertips before jumping and releasing a smooth shot. Swish! The ball finds the net for another three-pointer, cutting the lead to just 2 points. The sheer brilliance of this play is clear from the crowd's roar. It was truly spectacular. He blocked Leonard on one end, then returned to shake both Beverly and Leonard out of their shoes. With that three-pointer, he's proving to be the elite 3 and D player the Lakers need. One might even wonder who the real Death Claw is now. On the arena's big screen, the replay of his transition from defense to offense loops over and over for the stunned fans to witness. The commentators are shouting in disbelief, calling Wang the Lakers' greatest find of the year for his mastery of both ends of the floor. It's a beautiful sight to watch. One announcer wonders how such a talent remained hidden, while the other decides to be perfectly honest. He suggests that as an Eastern player, Wang simply didn't get the weight he deserved from certain coaches. Naturally, they don't linger on the topic. They move on quickly, but over in the Chiwin NBA broadcast room, commentators Wang Ming and Su Jing are equally delighted by the performance. Wang Ming notes that while the three-pointers aren't as explosive as the last game, the two-way value Wang Yi is showing is immense. Su Jing nods in agreement, pointing out that since Wang started guarding Leonard, the superstar hasn't managed to score a single point. We watch his defense. He stays glued to his man, denying every pass. He lacks Leonard's height and wingspan, but his tenacity is undeniable. This level of pressure is more than enough to be called a death claw of his own. Meanwhile, the fans in the live chat are having a field day. They mock those who claimed Leonard would crush Wang Yi, asking where all the haters have disappeared to now that the tables have turned. They even call out a specific critic, Xianggu, joking that if he has to eat his words after this game, he'll be quite full indeed. The haters, of course, have gone silent. That is their way, loud when you fail, but quick to retreat into their shells when you succeed. On the next Lakers possession, we see Wang sprint back into the Clippers' interior, looking for another opening in their defense. He weaves through 4 defenders in the paint. Leonard is a master at guarding the ball, but he rarely deals with a player who moves this much without it. The Clippers' interior defense is thrown into total chaos by his movement. Wang then quickly darts back to the perimeter, leaving Leonard trailing behind. This time, Leonard chases him with everything he has, but Wang Yi simply circles around LeBron James, who hands him the ball for a catch-and-shoot 3. As he goes up for the shot, Leonard crashes into his side, but Wang's confidence is so high that his release is incredibly quick. The ball leaves his hands before the shooting motion is even complete. At that same moment, the referee blows the whistle as the ball swishes through. The referee signals a foul on Leonard, counting the basket and awarding a free throw, which Wang sinks with perfect composure. A 4-point play, naturally. The score is suddenly tied at 86 apiece, forcing a timeout. The Lakers have erased a 20-point deficit in just half a quarter. This scoring pace is nothing short of terrifying, and we can all see that it stems entirely from Wang Yi's suffocating death claw defense. By shutting down the Clippers' primary weapons, his steals and repeated three-pointers have completely shifted the momentum. The noise in the arena has reached a deafening peak. Nearly 20,000 fans are cheering nonstop as the Lakers' morale hits an all-time high. Wang Yi looks over at Leonard, who remains as expressionless as ever. To be honest, he looks less like a man and more like a machine. He is like a robot devoid of emotion. Meanwhile, Clippers coach Tyronn Lue is growing anxious seeing that 20-point lead evaporate in an instant. However, he resists calling another timeout. He has already burned through 2 in the last 5 minutes, and he needs them for the fourth quarter. Instead, he shouts instructions from the sidelines to Leonard and George. Both stars turn their heads to look at their coach for answers. Lue says nothing more, simply staring at them with a look of deep expectation. He is essentially telling them to figure it out themselves. This is Lue's signature coaching philosophy. Back when he coached LeBron in Cleveland, his strategy was famously simple. When in doubt, ask LeBron. Everything relied on James. There was even a time when LeBron was so physically exhausted in the fourth quarter that he was on the verge of collapse. Lue called 2 consecutive timeouts, not to draw up a brilliant play, but simply to give LeBron a chance to breathe. It was a bold move, certainly. Only a coach like him would pull something like that. So, faced with Wang Yi's sudden defensive dominance and scoring outburst, he is feeling a bit lost. He can only look to his 2 stars, but while they are elite individual talents, they struggle to find tactical solutions when things go south. Out of options, he turns his attention to Rondo. Having been in the league for so many years, Rondo is a seasoned veteran who has seen it all. His basketball IQ is legendary. We might remember when he famously directed Cousins to guard empty air to stop a play. That is the mind Lue needs now. It is often said that Rondo is a coach on the floor, and Lue knows it. Seizing a break in play, he tells Rondo that the game is in his hands. Rondo accepts the responsibility without a word, simply nodding before heading back out. Over the next few minutes, we see the game shift again. With Rondo revitalizing the offense, the Clippers find their rhythm, while Wang Yi's three-pointers continue to shatter their zone defense. The lead begins to swing back and forth like a pendulum. By the end of the third quarter, only 2 points separate the 2 teams. During the break, nearly every Lakers player comes over to give Wang Yi a high five. Deep down, he feels a surge of genuine emotion. He remembers his 2 years wandering the league, where such a scene was unthinkable. Back then, players hardly even looked him in the eye. And yet, after only 2 games, he has earned the respect of the entire locker room. It is enough to make anyone feel a bit sentimental. He looks over at the Clippers bench, his gaze fixed on Leonard. He dreams of the day his Deathclaw defense is no longer just a system buff. He wants that power to be his own. Soon, the fourth quarter begins, and the Lakers decide to give James a much-needed rest. Wang Yi remains on the bench as well. He only played 8 minutes in the third, but the physical toll was immense. To be honest, he's exhausted. On defense, he had to use every ounce of strength against the robotic Leonard, while on offense, he never stopped running for screens. Even a man made of iron would struggle with that pace, so Coach Vogel keeps him sidelined. The coach has a specific plan in mind, you see. Over these last two games, Wang has proven himself to be an elite 3D player, the perfect partner for a star like LeBron James. Vogel intends to wait until LeBron returns to the floor before subbing Wang back in. For now, Anthony Davis leads the bench unit alone. However, with Rondo directing the Clippers' offense with surgical precision, the Lakers' substitutes begin to struggle, missing shot after shot. With 8 minutes left in the game, the Clippers have managed to pull away again, building a 9-point lead. And then, the unthinkable happens. After attempting a block, Anthony Davis suddenly clutches his hip, limping painfully across the hardwood. It is a sight no Lakers fan wants to see. The entire arena falls into a stunned, heavy silence. The team trainers rush onto the court immediately to check on the star's condition. A moment later, they help Davis back to the locker room. The news comes back quickly. Davis will not return to this game. LeBron's expression turns grim as he approaches Coach Vogel. With a look of absolute determination, he tells him, "Coach, I'm going in." Under a normal rotation, this would be his time to rest, but he knows he can't afford to sit any longer, even if it is just a regular season game. These two teams are crosstown rivals, and the Clippers are the Lakers' biggest perceived threat in the Western Conference playoffs. He is determined to win this game. With Davis injured, James asks to be subbed back in, and Coach Vogel takes a moment to weigh his options. Finally, he nods. His gaze then falls on Wang Yi. "Wang, it's your turn to perform," he says, knowing how vital he has been tonight. Since Wang Yi's three-pointers have been the most accurate, Vogel naturally pairs him with James. At the same time, he turns to Drummond. He tells Drummond to focus on protecting the rebounds, especially on the offensive end. Drummond nods, eager to prove his worth to the team. To be honest, Drummond has struggled to find his place since joining the Lakers, and he desperately needs to show he belongs in this lineup. The issue was that James's style requires space, and Drummond's lack of a mid-range shot usually makes the court feel a bit too crowded. But this game is different because Wang Yi's long-range shooting can be trusted. If the defense stays in the paint, Wang Yi will punish them. And if they chase him out to the perimeter, James will finally have the space he needs to drive. Soon, the three of them are subbed back in. We see the Lakers lineup now consists of James, Drummond, Caruso, Pope, and Wang Yi, a formidable group for the final stretch. Aside from Drummond being a bit slower on his feet, this unit has almost no defensive weaknesses as the Lakers return to the attack. Wang Yi continues to move constantly, searching for an opening, but his defender has switched to Paul George, a truly elite perimeter stopper. George is often teased for being on the wrong end of highlight reels, but that only proves he's always there, defending the toughest players. Drummond uses his massive frame to set a high-quality screen. Wang Yi curls around it, momentarily shaking off Paul George's tight coverage. James, possessing that legendary court vision, sees Wang Yi find the open space and fires a pass toward him without a second thought. Wang Yi catches the ball at the 45-degree angle on the left. Without even adjusting his feet, he rises and drains a cold-blooded three-pointer. The lead is cut to 6 points. As play continues, we see Wang Yi return to his death claw defense, sticking to Leonard like glue. On the other side, James locks in on Paul George. He may be older now and unable to sustain this intensity for long, but in key moments, the defensive pressure he exerts is still quite terrifying. Meanwhile, Caruso is tasked with the difficult job of hounding Rondo. After Rondo breaks through, he looks to pass, but seeing George smothered and Leonard tightly entangled, he's forced to kick it out to Beverly on the other side. Beverly attempts a shot, but Pope's aggressive closeout intimidates him. He doesn't dare pull the trigger and is forced to dribble back to Rondo. Rondo tries to organize the offense again, but seeing everyone else locked down, he has no choice but to hoist a desperate three as the shot clock expires. With a loud clang, the three-pointer misses the mark. The Lakers continue their assault as James grabs the rebound and immediately fires it to Pope on the fast break. Pope finishes with a dunk, cutting the lead to just 4 points. Over the next minute or so, the high-intensity defense displayed by the Lakers is truly something to behold. They hold the Clippers scoreless while executing 2 defensive counterattacks, supplemented by James's free throws and another clutch three-pointer from Wang Yi. The gap is completely erased, forcing the Clippers into a timeout as the atmosphere in the arena reaches a fever pitch once again. As James heads to the bench, he gives Wang Yi a fierce high-five. Meanwhile, in the NBA livestream chat, the usual haters have mostly vanished. The loud critics from earlier have gone silent, leaving only a few stubborn trolls to complain about strange details, like how his left-handed shot looks confusing. They claim he's just a stat patter, even mocking his ordinary hairstyle in a league full of flashiness, which, to be honest, is a bit of a reach. Back at the Staples Center, play resumes, and Wang Yi remains glued to Leonard. By now, the Deathclaw defensive buff has actually expired. Knowing this, Wang Yi makes a firm decision. He's going to play with pure grit. Whenever Leonard tries to receive the ball, Wang Yi constantly fronts him. He disrupts the passing lanes and initiates constant physical contact. He's at a physical disadvantage, of course, but he keeps applying pressure regardless. This strategy is designed to drain Leonard's energy. When Leonard finally does get the ball, Wang Yi is right there, pestering his every move and handle. He ensures Leonard is never comfortable, whether catching or dribbling. And as we know, once a player loses their rhythm, their efficiency begins to plummet. Sure enough, over the next few minutes, Leonard goes 1 for 4 on mid-range jumpers and 0 for 1 from beyond the arc. As for Paul George, James holds him to just 1 for 3 shooting. On the Lakers' side, however, the massive energy Wang Yi spent on defense begins to take a toll. His shots aren't as precise as before, yet he still manages to sink 2 out of 4 three-pointers. This shift allows the Lakers to build a 5-point lead. But just then, the Clippers shooters find their spark, hitting consecutive threes to stay in the hunt. It seems they aren't going away quietly. Even coach Rondo chips in with a three-pointer of his own. Ultimately, the suspense of this battle is maintained until the final 28 seconds of the game. The score stands at 115 to 117, with the Clippers holding a slim 2-point lead as the Lakers look for a way to survive. Whether watching from the stands, their televisions, or their phones, every fan feels their heart racing and palms sweating in anticipation. Nearly everyone in the arena is standing now, and we see many fans with hands clasped in silent prayer as the big screen flickers. The cameras keep cutting to James, as this next possession is absolutely critical. He is the leader, the brain, and the engine of this team. It would be natural for him to take the shot, but Wang Yi's three-point shooting today has been terrifying, hitting 8 out of 12. Entrusting the ball to him wouldn't be such a wild idea, but the choice is difficult, and the atmosphere is thick with tension. Even the cheerleaders' performance during the timeout goes ignored, as even the Lakers' own bench players begin to succumb to the nerves. Some sit with hands tightly clenched, whispering prayers, while Caruso wipes away endless sweat and Drummond gulps down water to stay calm. But in this moment, Wang Yi isn't nervous at all. Instead, his eyes are shining with a fierce, burning passion for the game. Despite the massive energy he spent earlier, this rush of adrenaline makes him forget his fatigue entirely. He lives for battles like this. His only feeling is pure excitement. It is a natural trait he's had since childhood. The more intense the game, the more thrilled he becomes. He craves competition, a quality that seems to be in his very DNA, and Coach Vogel can't help but notice this spark in him. The coach is genuinely surprised, as it's rare to find a player who thrives so visibly under such immense pressure. Usually, these are the players who perform best when it matters most, so Vogel asks, "Wang, how would you feel about taking this shot?" The other Lakers are stunned to hear this. Wang Yi has been excellent, but can a player on a 10-day contract really handle this burden? We have to remember that the psychological pressure in these final seconds is enough to break even the most seasoned veterans. Under such weight, would his three-pointer still be as lethal? It's a fair question, considering his temporary status on the roster. Many starters across the league wouldn't even dare to shoot in a moment like this, which is why the ball usually goes to the superstar. For the coach to ask Wang Yi this directly is truly unexpected, yet without a single moment of hesitation, Wang Yi gives his answer. "I feel great about it," he says. His teammates are left even more baffled. Where on earth does a 10-day contract player get such confidence? Naturally, he couldn't explain that he simply gets more excited as the stakes get higher, so he just said he's only a 10-day contract player. If he makes the shot, people will say he's cool, and the praise will follow. If he misses, everyone will just blame whoever passed him the ball. After all, who would trust such a critical shot to a temporary player? The pressure, he joked, was on them and not on him. His words left the team speechless for a moment, but soon enough, the tension broke and everyone began to laugh. Behind that humor, we see a deep hunger for battle. Returning to the court, the Lakers watch as James brings the ball across the half-court line. With the Lakers trailing by only 2, they have a choice: go for the tie with 2 points, or the win with 3. Following James's instructions, Wang Yi stays in the corner without moving, which makes the Clippers head coach breathe a small sigh of relief. He assumes Coach Vogel wouldn't trust a 10-day contract player with the final shot, or perhaps the kid just couldn't handle the psychological pressure. Since Wang Yi isn't even trying to get open, the coach shouts to Paul George from the sidelines to focus on helping the interior defense. He knows James's three-pointers haven't been falling today, and Tyronn Lue is certain that James will try to force his way into the paint. George nods, remembering the times James has beaten him at the buzzer before. This time, he is determined not to let it happen again. Guarding James now is the robotic Leonard, but after a quick crossover, James manages to find a half-step of space against him. Using his strength to shoulder past Leonard, James drives hard toward the basket, and a worried George rushes over to help double-team him. But just as George commits to the drive, James sends a precision pass right over George's shoulder, straight into Wang Yi's hands. George realizes his mistake instantly and tries to scramble back, but it's already too late. By the time Wang Yi catches the ball, George is still 4 meters away. Without a single moment of hesitation, Wang Yi releases the shot, sending the ball in a high, arching arc. Every eye in the arena is glued to that orange sphere as it falls toward the rim, only to hit the front iron and bounce high into the air. The nearly 20,000 fans in attendance let out a collective groan of disappointment at the sight of the ball nearly missing. Meanwhile, the Clippers players, coach, and fans all breathe a sigh of relief, thinking the Lakers' luck has finally run out. But as the ball hangs in the air during this final, chaotic moment of the game, the outcome remains far more uncertain than they think. The players on the court are completely dazed by the chaos of this final play. In this single, high-stakes moment, every athlete out there seems lost in the confusion. This particular sequence has left the players and the crowd alike holding their collective breath. Meanwhile, the Clippers head coach and their fans finally let out a long sigh of relief. It seems this Lakers player, wearing number 1, simply lacked the mental toughness for such a critical moment. He didn't have the nerves for what was arguably the most important shot of the entire game. Deep down, the Lakers fans are already beginning to fume, wondering why the ball was ever passed to a temporary player. The commentator, speaking at a frantic pace, shouts, "Oh no, why pass it to Wong?" Despite his earlier heroics. It was a poor decision by James, and one has to wonder if he'll regret it as he watches the broadcast later. In the studio, the announcers share the disappointment, with Wang Ming lamenting that Wang Yi's three-pointer missed. Su-kun shakes his head, noting that a make here would have proven Wang Yi has the big heart needed for a full contract. Even the live chat has gone silent. As the ball bounces off the rim, the game is far from over. Even the harshest critics are too breathless to post a single insult as the ball leaps high into the air. A player tries to secure the rebound, but before he can even bring the ball down, a pair of hands reaches in from the side. With a sudden burst of strength, he rips the ball away, and that man is none other than Caruso. The atmosphere shifts instantly as 4 Clippers players swarm around the Lakers fan favorite. Caruso is wrapped up like a cocoon, but he spots Wang Yi still waiting in that same left corner. Without a second to lose, Caruso leaps toward the baseline to create a passing lane while suspended in midair. When the fans see Caruso passing to Wang Yi yet again, a collective cry of "No, no, no" echoes through the arena. The announcer's voice hits a fever pitch. Caruso with the steal. He passes to Wang again, the man who just missed. We see the tension rise as everyone assumes he won't shoot again. LeBron is open on the perimeter, and there is plenty of time left on the clock. Surely, Wang Yi will pass to LeBron to reset the offense, but our protagonist isn't thinking about that. With a wide-open look, passing seems like a waste. To be honest, passing would be throwing away a golden opportunity, and as for the immense psychological pressure, that is almost a joke to him. He simply doesn't know the meaning of pressure. Even as Paul George rushes back to defend, Wang Yi catches the ball without a hint of doubt. There isn't a single trace of hesitation in his eyes as he bends his knees, pushes off his toes, and begins his shooting motion with perfect form. The entire movement is as smooth as flowing water, and though Paul George lunges forward with incredible speed, the distance is just too great. The defender can only watch helplessly as the basketball leaps high into the air, just barely grazing past his outstretched fingertips. The hopes of the entire team seem to ride on the arc of that ball as it sails through the air toward its final destination. Then comes that satisfying swish, the beautiful sound of the ball snapping through the net and hitting the very center of the hoop. A white wave ripples through the net as the three-pointer lands, and the Staples Center erupts into the loudest cheers of the day. It's like a volcano finally erupting. Across the ocean in the broadcast studio, Wang Ming throws a powerful fist pump and shouts in pure excitement. He screams about how incredible the play was, while Su-kun, unable to contain himself, adjusts his glasses and gasps at the screen. He calls Wang Yi a true big-heart player, while the online critics who were ready to pounce have suddenly gone silent, as if they've lost their voices. The live chat is now a blur of praise and fire emojis, but back on the court, the 5 Lakers players have no time to celebrate just yet. The Clippers have used up all their timeouts and must play on, meaning the Lakers have to transition back to defense immediately. The Clippers entrust their final attack to Leonard, and once again, it is Wang Yi who stands his ground, staring Leonard down intently. On the sidelines, Coach Vogel signals for a tactical foul, and Wang Yi nods as he watches the clock tick down to the final 13 seconds. Just as Leonard prepares to make his move, Wang Yi reaches out and grabs his jersey to stop the play. A calculated move, really. Since the Lakers haven't reached the foul limit yet, there are no free throws. The ball is inbound again to Paul George while Wang Yi sticks to Leonard. He refuses to give Leonard any space to breathe, and though Paul George looks to pass several times, he finds no opening to reach his teammate. Recalling how Wang Yi had already stripped the ball from Leonard twice, George abandons the idea of passing and faces LeBron's defense on the perimeter. He forces a shot that clangs heavily off the back of the rim. As the ball bounces away, the red light on the backboard glows and the buzzer sounds. And that is it. The game is over. With a final score of 118-117, the Lakers have secured a narrow 1-point victory. The crowd erupts into a literal sea of sound once more, while the Lakers players raise their arms in triumph. Caruso is the first to rush over, overcome with emotion. He pulls Wang Yi into a hug, shouting that they won thanks to that clutch three-pointer, as LeBron and the others begin to make their way over. LeBron tells him that this is his moment and to enjoy every second of it, offering the kind of wisdom only a veteran of his stature can provide. Tucker, Gasol, and Harrell all move in for high fives, calling Wang Yi a true big-heart player and a brother who really showed up when it mattered. The Lakers squad huddles together, savoring the sweetness of a hard-earned win. A few moments later, the intensity of the celebration begins to settle. As their emotions calm, the Clippers players approach to show their respect, exchanging post-game hugs with the Lakers roster. Leonard embraces LeBron first before making his way to Wang Yi, a man of few words. He offers only a single, meaningful sentence. He tells Wang Yi he is a respectable opponent, to which Wang Yi simply replies, "You too," before Leonard turns toward the player tunnel. During that brief embrace, however, one could feel the fierce competitive fire burning within him, a trait shared by all true superstars. The stronger the opponent, the brighter their fire burns. After hugging LeBron, Paul George also approaches Wang Yi, promising to remember his name. George expresses his anticipation for their next duel, and Wang Yi nods, admitting he is looking forward to it as well. Just as the opponents depart, a staff member stops Wang Yi, accompanied by Qianyi, explaining that he can't leave just yet because of an interview. It turns out the reporter is from his home country. While post-game interviews are an honor for most, they can be a bit of a chore for the big stars. The staff member is incredibly apologetic, which, to be honest, shows just how much Wang Yi's status in the organization has risen. Upon hearing the reporter is from China, Wang Yi nods immediately and tells them to bring her over. After all, it's always a pleasure to see a compatriot. Relieved by his cooperation, the staff member nods quickly and hurries off to bring the media team onto the court. Soon, a beautiful reporter arrives with a cameraman in tow. As Wang Yi turns to look, we see her long hair catching the light of the arena. She is wearing a form-fitting white outfit that perfectly accentuates her figure, and as we look closer, we realize she is a familiar face. This is Zhou Lingyan, who had interviewed Wang Yi back when he first entered the NBA. Most Chinese fans who follow the league know her well. She is a regular fixture at these games, often seen conducting post-game interviews with players once the final buzzer has sounded. However, her status in the NBA media world doesn't quite match the heavyweights from TNT or ESPN, which usually limits her access. Under normal circumstances, she rarely gets to interview the superstars, focusing instead on role players. But today, she greets Wang Yi warmly. It isn't their first meeting, and hearing Mandarin in an NBA arena is a rare treat that makes Wang Yi feel instantly more relaxed. He offers a genuine smile in return as Zhou Lingyan congratulates him on his incredible performance and that game-winning shot. Wang Yi nods his thanks, and she continues, noting that he played only 15 minutes tonight, yet achieved something remarkable. With 9 three-pointers out of 13 attempts, he racked up 28 points, 2 steals, and 2 assists in a truly dominant display. She asks him how he feels deep down after such a night, and he pauses, appearing to carefully organize his thoughts in his head. Zhou Lingyan waits patiently, knowing that all NBA players are trained to handle the media and understand exactly what they should and shouldn't say. After a moment, he seems to have found the right words. He takes a deep breath and gives his honest response. "Great," he says simply. Zhou Lingyan is stunned for a second before she bursts out laughing at the brevity of his answer. Even the cameraman can't help but chuckle, causing the lens to shake slightly as they enjoy the unexpected humor of the moment. She tells him he's quite the comedian before moving to her final question regarding the many fans back home who support him. Wang Yi nods, stating firmly that he won't let his supporters down, but as for the haters, he has a different message. He tells them to say whatever they want, because if he pays them even a second of attention, he considers it his own loss. Zhou Lingyan is taken aback. He looks so mild-mannered on the surface that she didn't expect him to be so blunt and assertive. But it makes sense. After 2 years of struggling, many fans had turned their backs on him, which was understandable enough. However, the critics had crossed the line into personal attacks on his family, and deep down, it was impossible not to feel some resentment. Delivering such a stellar performance was a massive weight off his shoulders, and these words were his definitive answer to the haters. Having understood his perspective, Zhou Lingyan smiled and thanked Wang Yi for the interview, wishing him luck in the next game. Wang Yi nodded, expressing his own hope for their next meeting before saying his goodbyes to her and heading toward the tunnel. As he entered the player tunnel, he paused in surprise to see LeBron James himself waiting there like a sentry at the entrance. Usually, when a role player puts on a truly spectacular show, LeBron and Anthony Davis make a point of waiting for them. After such a dominant performance and a game-winning shot, it was clear that Wang Yi had earned this level of respect. LeBron clapped him on the shoulder and invited him to the post-game press conference, a significant gesture for any player. LeBron reminded him that he predicted his luck was changing. Wang Yi laughed and thanked him before heading to the showers. A little later, we see Wang Yi attending his very first post-game press conference alongside LeBron, facing a sea of reporters. He handled every question flawlessly, even slipping in a few jokes that had the entire room erupting in genuine laughter. Meanwhile, over at the Staples Center gift shop, a young blonde boy of about 10 years old came running in, looking quite urgent. Clutching $10 in his hand, he told the clerk he desperately wanted a number 1 Lakers jersey. The clerk simply shook his head, explaining that they didn't have any number 1 jerseys in stock, much to the boy's confusion. The boy insisted it was for Wang, the player who hit the game winner tonight, but the clerk just offered a sympathetic smile. The clerk offered a polite apology, explaining that since the player was only on a short-term contract, the store didn't stock his jersey yet. 10-day contracts are non-guaranteed. After all, a player could be released immediately after a single game, which is a harsh reality. Even if they stay, they might only be there for 10 days before moving to another team or leaving the league entirely. Naturally, shops don't print jerseys for such temporary stays, leaving the boy feeling quite anxious about how to get one. The clerk shrugged and suggested the boy leave a phone number so they could notify him if a jersey ever became available. As they were speaking, we see the boy's parents finally catching up to him and entering the store. After understanding the situation, the parents left their number, but the boy kept reminding the clerk to call the moment Wang's jersey arrived. "Please let me know immediately. I really want his jersey," he pleaded, while elsewhere, fans were already taking to social media. It seemed absurd that there were no jerseys for Wang yet, but the word was out. It was all because of that temporary 10-day contract. Fans were calling for the Lakers to give Wang a guaranteed deal, urging Pelinka to move quickly, but at that moment, our protagonist was oblivious. Wang was completely unaware of the growing hype, and to be honest, he wasn't worried about the contract after his recent performance. He had already proven his worth as a high-quality 3D player, a role that is incredibly sought after in the modern NBA. Deep down, he knew that if the Lakers didn't offer him a spot, other teams would be fighting for him, especially since the Lakers needed his skills. He felt certain that Pelinka wouldn't stay idle for long, so he returned to Caruso's garage and fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. Meanwhile, across the ocean, we see the internet in China absolutely exploding because of his incredible game-winning shot. Every major sports media outlet was buzzing with his name, and the NBA section on Tencent was filled with nothing but praise. Headlines screamed about Wang scoring 28 points in just 15 minutes, the first major game winner from a player with his background. Some even joked that LeBron should step aside for the new king, asking Pelinka what he was waiting for as the posts went viral. We see these reports spreading like wildfire across the web, and while some were a bit exaggerated, that is simply how the media works. When a player struggles, they tear them down, but when they succeed, they lift them up to the heavens. It's a fickle business, really. As a Chinese player in the NBA, one has to be prepared for both extremes, as seen on the social media of famous commentator Yang Yi. He posted just one word: delightful. A simple sentiment, but for the fans, the meaning behind it was crystal clear. Ever since Yao Ming retired, the fans had been waiting for the next Chinese player who could truly hold their own in the league. Although Wang had been in the NBA for 2 years, he had mostly been a journeyman, only getting a few minutes during garbage time. But after today's performance, scoring 28 points and hitting the winning shot, everything felt different for the fans back home. It felt as though a decade of frustration had finally been washed away, and the news of his victory continued to spread. The news even surged to the top of Weibo's trending lists. Even those who rarely follow basketball were drawn to the story of a Chinese player making waves in the NBA. People began searching for his name, and highlights of his 28 points in just 15 minutes started spreading across every short video platform. He was completely unaware of all this, but at 5:30 the next morning, as he woke up, that cold electronic voice echoed in his mind once again. The task was to complete 1,000 lateral slides for a 20% increase in lateral speed, a reward that made him snap wide awake instantly. If his lateral speed increased by 20%, he would immediately enter the elite ranks of the league, and in that case, things would change. His defensive quality would take a massive leap forward, and it seemed he truly was on his way to becoming a top-tier 3D player. Unable to contain his excitement, Wang headed straight to the training hall, and though the security guard was woken up, he didn't complain at all. Instead, the guard greeted him warmly, asking if he was always this early and mentioning how incredible that game-winning shot was last night. He even asked for an autograph, proving that even the arena staff were starting to notice his rising star. The guard remarked on his diligence, noting that he had only ever seen one other person work this hard, a man named Kobe Bryant. Wang answered without hesitation, knowing Kobe's legendary work ethic, while the guard laughed and told him to keep it up, calling him brother. The guard hoped to see a second Black Mamba in the near future, but Wang simply smiled and said nothing. To be honest, he had his own path in mind. While being compared to a legend is a great honor, he didn't want to be the second version of someone else. He wanted to be the first version of himself. Entering the gym, he shed his jacket, took his stance, and quickly began the grueling lateral movement training as the sun began to rise. By 9 in the morning, as the other players began trickling into the arena, he finally finished his 1,000th lateral slide. Upon hearing the notification that the task was complete, he felt utterly drained, moving to a bench to gasp for air as he recovered. When he finally looked up, he saw General Manager Pelinka standing beside him, who quietly asked Wang to follow him for a private talk. He could guess what this was about, and following Pelinka to the office, he was invited to take a seat on the sofa. Pelinka even poured him a glass of water, and while most GMs are shrewd politicians who tell people exactly what they want to hear, Pelinka was known for being different. He preferred to be direct, waiting patiently for Wang to finish his water before starting the conversation. Pelinka got straight to the point, telling Wang that he wouldn't be offering a guaranteed contract just yet, a statement that caught our protagonist quite off guard. He found it hard to believe. After all, the 3D skills he had displayed over the last 2 games were exactly what the league was desperate for. Logically, Pelinka should have been offering security, but Wang remained silent, waiting for the general manager to explain his reasoning. Pelinka continued, noting that Wang's performance had already earned the team's trust and was certainly worth a guaranteed contract of over $2 million. However, he felt that Wang's potential went far beyond that, which was why he was holding off on the $2 million offer for now. With the team's current salary cap, they could actually offer over $5 million, but a sum like that required a certain level of consistency. He wanted to see a few more games before Wang's 10-day contract expired to ensure the young player could maintain this high level of play. If he could deliver what they expected, Pelinka promised a $5 million guarantee. Hearing this, Wang finally felt a wave of relief wash over him. It turned out Pelinka wasn't being stingy. She was simply waiting to see if he could prove he was worth the higher tier of pay. The next few games would be a trial to see if he could secure that $5 million future, and Wang nodded, signaling that he understood perfectly. Pelinka added that even if he didn't reach the $5 million mark, a guaranteed contract was still waiting for him regardless. It would be for $2 million, as his game-winning shot alone had proven his value. Wang couldn't help but smile and offer his sincere thanks. To be honest, Pelinka seemed like a decent person, and after finishing the morning team practice, Wang headed out with his teammates for lunch. Upon returning, we see the security guard waiting for him, holding a Lakers jersey and a marker in his hands. Wang smiled and signed the jersey, making the guard's day. The man told him to keep working hard until he became a true superstar. The guard joked that once Wang was famous, he'd sell the jersey online for a fortune, leaving Wang momentarily speechless before the man burst into laughter. He was only kidding, of course, he'd never sell a Lakers jersey. Soon, we moved to 9 o'clock the following evening, another game day. Their opponents tonight were the Phoenix Suns, the very team that had eliminated the Lakers from the playoffs the previous year. The Lakers had become the first defending champions to be knocked out in the first round, a shameful record that left the whole team hungry for revenge. LeBron James, in particular, had faced relentless mockery from NBA legends and critics alike after that exit, and he was ready to settle the score. From the critics to the millions of fans online, everyone knew LeBron didn't want to lose this regular season game, even before the tip-off. Over in the Chinese streaming rooms, fans were already debating whether Wang could keep up his incredible three-point shooting streak tonight. Many hoped he would, as it had been a long time since a Chinese player truly shined, though the skeptics were out in full force too. They argued that expecting 3 explosive games in a row was pure fantasy, especially with news that Anthony Davis was out with an injury. Without Davis, the Suns' defense would have a much easier time, allowing them to spread their focus more effectively across the rest of the roster. Under these circumstances, if Wang managed to explode again, it would be a miracle. Some even compared his start to the early days of Linsanity. The logic was simple. In the first 2 games, teams didn't know him, but now the Suns had surely studied his every move to shut him down. One hater even joked that if Wang succeeded, he'd eat something unsavory on a live stream, a comment that immediately drew a sharp rebuttal. The fans fired back, telling him to get lost since he still hadn't followed through on his bets from the previous 2 games. In the broadcast booth, we find the host Ko Fan alongside the well-known domestic basketball commentator and media personality, Yang Yi. With the lovely Mei Nan as the co-host, Ko Fan opened the floor by asking Yang Yi to predict how the game would unfold. Yang Yi laughed, sensing a trap to make him look foolish, but he noted that no prediction is ever 100% accurate. He pointed out that with Davis out and Chris Paul leading the Suns, history seemed to be repeating itself in a rather striking way. As for the flow of the game, he felt LeBron couldn't carry the Lakers alone against the Suns team led by Paul and Devin Booker. Other players would have to step up for the Lakers to even have a chance, prompting Kofan to ask who exactly that might be. Without hesitation, Yang Yi explained that the Lakers' three-point shooting had been a glaring issue since last season, and it wasn't getting better. While players like Caruso or Kuzma might hit a couple of shots occasionally, they weren't reliable enough to be considered consistent offensive weapons. Even Schroeder's outside shot was unreliable, meaning the Lakers' success depended on whether Schroeder could penetrate the paint effectively. The second factor was our very own Wang, though Yang Yi admitted that things were looking quite difficult for the young player now. The Suns had undoubtedly prepared specific defensive strategies for him, making another breakout performance seem highly unlikely tonight. At 9:30 p.m., the game begins, the final stop in the Lakers' 5-game home stretch, and the fans have filled the stands early. We see a familiar face in the crowd, the legendary Jack Nicholson, star of The Shining and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. An Oscar winner and perhaps the most iconic Lakers fan in history, he attends nearly every single game of the season. Once again, he is settled into his usual VIP spot, seat 124 in the very first row, watching the court with a practiced eye. It is a seat he has held for years, perfectly positioned to watch the action and, more importantly, to give the referees a piece of his mind. Right now, his gaze has fallen upon our protagonist, Wang, who is sporting the number 1 jersey tonight. Having followed the team for over 50 years, Nicholson has witnessed every era of the Lakers' storied and often chaotic history. This season has been particularly tough. LeBron is aging, averaging just 20.1 points, and Davis is frequently sidelined with injuries. Consequently, the Lakers' ranking has slipped, suggesting a period of decline, until those last 2 games, that is. He seems to see a glimmer of hope now, and it is all thanks to this young man from the East. While injuries and LeBron's age are factors, the Lakers' truly abysmal three-point percentage has been their biggest hurdle. If they can just fix their struggles beyond the arc, there is still much to expect from this team. And Wong, it seems, might just be the missing piece to solve that perimeter puzzle, at least in Nicholson's estimation. Whether the young man can truly carry that weight remains to be seen, but for now, the Lakers starters take the floor. We see LeBron, Schroeder, Drummond, Pope, and Caruso facing off against a largely unchanged Suns lineup. To start things off, LeBron hands the ball to Schroeder, hoping an early aggressive drive will draw the defense away from himself. Schroeder manages a quick 2 points, followed shortly by a LeBron three-pointer, giving them a promising 5-0 lead. It is a smooth start, to be sure, perhaps a bit too smooth for a team used to struggling. The plan was simple: hit the threes and push the fast breaks, but the Lakers have already missed 2 transition opportunities. As for the shooting, the other perimeter players seem to have brought their usual, inconsistent hands to the court tonight. The rest of the starters missed 3 consecutive shots from beyond the arc, clanking them off the rim so hard it was a wonder it didn't bend. On the other end, the Suns' Booker seemed ready to explode in the first quarter, hitting 4 out of 4 three-pointers in just 5 minutes. Within 4 minutes, the score hit 5-14, trailing by 9. The Lakers were forced to call an immediate timeout. The situation felt hauntingly familiar, as if the first quarter of last year's Game 6 was repeating itself, and commentator Yang, he could only shake his head. In that infamous Game 6, Devin Booker went 6 for 6 from deep, scoring 22 points. Today, after only 4 minutes, he was already 4 for 4. With 12 points already, he was outscoring the entire Lakers team alone, a display of scoring dominance that was, frankly, a bit ridiculous. It seemed the game was destined to follow last year's script, leaving Kafan to wonder how Coach Vogel would adjust and if he would finally call on Wong. Yang considered this, but shook his head, doubting it would happen so soon. Wong might be in the rotation, but he wouldn't be sent in quite yet. And indeed, as we return from the timeout, we see that Yang was right. Wong remained on the bench. Coach Vogel opted to have Pope shadow Booker across the court while instructing the other players to help with double teams. However, the Lakers' offensive woes persisted as the Suns stuck to their zone defense, practically daring the Lakers to keep shooting threes. The Lakers' perimeter shooting remained utterly disastrous, leaving LeBron with no choice but to abandon the plan and drive to the basket early. But with the defense collapsed in the paint, his efficiency was low. He is aging, after all, and isn't quite the force he once was. In the past, he would have simply taken flight for a rim-rattling dunk regardless of the defenders, but those days are mostly behind him. Now he often has to settle for contested layups or fadeaway jumpers after a spin. Though he managed 2 baskets, it looked like hard work. Meanwhile, Booker's hand remained scorching hot. Even with Pope's tight defense and constant double teams, he couldn't be stopped. He sank 2 more improbable three-pointers, bringing his tally to a perfect 6 for 6 from deep, complemented by several driving layups. Having already racked up 20 points, he was truly recreating his Game 6 performance. Halfway through the quarter, the Lakers trailed by 15. Vogel called another timeout in a hurry, knowing that if the lead reached 20, a comeback would become nearly impossible. As the Lakers walked off the court, their expressions were grim, especially LeBron, who was surely haunted by the memories of last year. LeBron's memory far exceeds that of ordinary people, a gift that grants him many advantages, like remembering every single opposing tactic. He can recall what every gesture means, but this also brings him misery. It is incredibly difficult for him to forget painful moments. These bitter memories replay in his mind over and over, with every detail making him feel as if he's back in that moment. Only 6 minutes into the game, the Lakers trailed by 15. As the second timeout was called, the Staples Center crowd erupted. The fans weren't as high-spirited as before. Instead, they were all haunted by the memory of last year's Game 6. Back then, Booker was also 6 for 6 from deep as the Lakers' situation spiraled. They simply didn't want to see history repeat itself. As a traditional powerhouse with 17 championships, the Lakers have fans who are, to put it mildly, quite picky. They won't encourage the team for playing poorly. They prefer to shout, demanding Vogel find a solution for this mess. One fan screamed that it was total garbage, wondering why he spent so much money just to watch them play like children. Of course, more rational fans knew only three-pointers could save the Lakers now, but their current shooters were acting like blacksmiths. Their shooting was worse than Shaq's free throws. Then, someone remembered Wong's back-to-back explosive performances and wondered why Vogel was waiting. The cry to put Wong in stirred the crowd like a stone cast into a pond, and soon the chant echoed everywhere. As the crowd roared, Vogel's gaze finally shifted toward Wong. Originally, he had planned a much more conservative debut for the day. He had intended to give Wong a few minutes late in the second quarter, as 2 good games don't usually earn an immediate rotation spot. One must take things slowly, but with the regular rotation failing and the situation spiraling out of control, he had no choice. He was forced to send Wong in early to see what would happen, telling him to sub in for Schroeder, who simply nodded. Schroeder sat silently on the bench. Vogel had a specific reason for this swap, as Schroeder was simply too short for this matchup. Booker shooting over him was like shooting over a child, but with Wong's defense, there was a chance to finally slow him down. Vogel also hoped Wong could provide some much-needed perimeter support. The moment Wong stepped onto the hardwood, a familiar sound returned. That cold, electronic voice announced a successful check-in, granting a primary block card, though Wong didn't stop to examine it just yet. Since it was the Lakers' turn to attack, there was no need for a block yet, but as Wong faced off against Booker, his blood began to boil. His eyes flickered with excitement, remembering that Devin Booker had once dropped 70 points in back-to-back 50-point games. The man's scoring ability was, frankly, off the charts, and facing such an opponent only fueled Wong's fighting spirit as their eyes met. Booker saw the spark in Wong's gaze. He was clearly aware of the newcomer's performance over the last 2 games as the first play began. The Suns stuck with their zone defense. They knew Wong could shoot, but 2 good games weren't enough to change their entire strategy just yet. They decided to test his rhythm rather than shadow him immediately, which allowed Wong to find an opening beyond the 3-point line. He caught LeBron's pass with ease and, without a hint of hesitation, let it fly with his left hand. Swish, the shot was pure. The 3-pointer hit the mark, cutting the lead to 12, and finally, the home crowd found a reason to cheer again as Booker watched. Booker took the ball himself. As the star, he felt the need to respond immediately, especially since his own shot was still red hot. Wong could practically read his mind, so he wasted no time activating his primary block card, and the system confirmed its success. With a 50% block rate active for the next 10 minutes, Wong stood his ground as Booker approached without even trying to dodge. Being the taller man, Booker felt he didn't need to move. He prepared to pull up for a 3 right in Wong's face. A bold move, certainly. As a former 3-point contest champion, he had every reason to be confident, while the local announcers watched with bated breath. Seeing Booker prepare for the jumper, the announcer shook his head, fearing the worst, but his words were cut short by what happened next. Wong leaped perfectly in sync with him, his left fingertips grazing the ball and altering its trajectory until it lost all its momentum. The ball fell limply after only 2 meters. The announcer, stunned into a brief silence, finally shouted that Wong had actually blocked Booker. It was a brilliant play, and as Caruso scooped up the loose ball to start the fast break, Kuzma was already sprinting down the court. An easy dunk followed, and suddenly the lead was down to 10 points, sending the fans into a frenzy while Booker shot Wong a sharp look. Anger began to stir in Booker's heart. As Paul brought the ball across half-court, he knew exactly what his teammate was thinking. Having been blocked by an unknown player like the Lakers' #1, Booker wanted his revenge, and Paul, being a veteran, understood this well. Recognizing the importance of reclaiming momentum, Paul passed the ball to Booker and signaled for the others to clear out, leaving Booker one-on-one with Wong. This time, Booker didn't go for a direct jumper. Instead, he suddenly dribbled to the right, seemingly trying to blow past Wong with pure speed. Just as Wong took a step back to contain the drive, Booker executed a sharp step-back move, retreating behind the 3-point line to launch a jumper. However, Wong lunged forward with incredible speed, and just as Booker raised the ball to shoot, he was met with a hand right in his face. Wong smothered the ball completely, a perfect Wade-style block that left the local announcers stunned, shouting in disbelief that Wong had done it again. They couldn't fathom how he moved so fast. It was simply unbelievable, and Booker himself was left dazed, wondering how his rhythm had been broken. By all logic, that crossover into a step back should have created plenty of space, yet Wong had closed the gap in the blink of an eye. In reality, that step back Wong took during the drive was a defensive feint. He knew Booker, having been blocked once, would likely try to prove himself. Predicting another 3-point attempt, Wong had already leaned his upper body forward while retreating, preparing his muscles for the explosive leap. As Booker stepped back, Wong followed him like a shadow, making his reaction seem almost impossibly fast to those watching from the sidelines. To be honest, there was an element of gambling involved. Had Booker actually driven to the rim, he would have bypassed Wong with ease. But the gamble paid off, and after swatting the ball down, Wong secured it and sprinted toward the front court with Paul chasing hard behind him. He initially considered finishing the play himself, but remembering his injured right hand, he worried a left-handed layup might not be smooth enough. So, upon crossing the 3-point line, he executed a flashy behind-the-back pass to Pope, who was trailing the play perfectly. Pope caught the ball in stride and hammered it home with a thunderous dunk, cutting the deficit to just 8 points as the crowd erupted. The cheers surged by several decibels, and the arena DJ's voice boomed over the speakers, drawing out the announcement of Pope's spectacular finish. The DJ wasn't blind, of course. He knew that 90% of the credit for that basket belonged to Wong's defensive brilliance. By blocking the red-hot Booker and initiating the break, Wong had single-handedly manufactured the opportunity for Pope's highlight dunk. Consequently, when the DJ announced the assist, he spoke Wong's name with extra passion, letting the syllables echo through the rafters. The announcer's infectious energy stirred the fans even further, and the atmosphere in the arena reached a fever pitch amidst the deafening roars. The fans were already buzzing, insisting that Wong should have been on the court much sooner after witnessing those 2 consecutive blocks. Shutting down the Suns' top scorer that was undeniably impressive. Wong certainly didn't look like a player on a short-term contract. To the crowd, he looked like a star in the making, and Suns coach Monty Williams was starting to feel the pressure. After the Lakers went on a 7-0 run, Williams called a timeout, his eyes fixed on Booker to gauge his mental state. We see Booker clutching a water bottle, but his gaze revealed a fierce, burning desire for a comeback. He was fuming after being blocked twice by this newcomer. He couldn't believe an unknown player had the nerve to challenge him. Coach Williams knew that Booker was young and prone to letting his emotions take over, which could lead to even bigger mistakes. He knew Booker had to reclaim his dignity on the court, but he needed a smarter approach, so he pulled him aside. He told Devin he needed to strike back and teach the young man a lesson, and Booker responded with a firm, determined nod. Williams nodded back, advising him to stop settling for threes since Wong clearly had a knack for blocking those shots. He suggested changing tactics. Instead of shooting over him, Booker needed to drive hard and tear the defense apart from the inside. For a young star like Devin, being told to change his game felt almost like a personal concession. 2 years ago, he might have refused, but after last year's playoffs, he had matured enough to value the win over his ego. He understood that the path to victory didn't matter as long as they won, and Paul watched on, feeling a sense of pride. If the Suns were to reach the next level, their leader had to grow, and it seemed that growth was happening right before our eyes. As we return to the court, the game resumes with Paul bringing the ball up and once again deferring to Booker. The floor cleared as Booker faced Wong, slowly crossing the ball between his hands 4 times to find his rhythm. Suddenly, he shifted gears, raising his hands as if to shoot, and Wong instinctively stepped forward to contest the shot. But it was a clever hesitation move. The next moment, Booker dropped his center of gravity to blow past Wong on the left. However, just as he made his move, Wong shifted his feet with incredible speed, and Booker slammed right into his chest. Failing to break through on the left, Booker quickly wrapped the ball behind his back to shift right, hoping to find a gap there instead. But with a dull thud, he slammed into Wong's chest once more. Unable to find a way through, he was forced to retreat a few steps. After creating some space, he tried to accelerate again, but Wong's lateral speed was simply too fast, perfectly timing every movement. Wong effectively blocked every path Booker tried to take, leaving the star with no choice but to pull back beyond the three-point line. While Booker managed to create a small opening this time, Wong wasn't about to give him a free shot and lunged forward to contest it. He was careful not to make physical contact, yet his presence was enough to rattle Booker, who was clearly starting to feel the pressure. Perhaps it was the nerves or the fear of another block, but Booker's shot hit the back of the rim and was snatched up by Drummond. The commentators were practically shouting with excitement, asking the audience if they had just witnessed that incredible defensive display. It was an airtight defense. Wong's lateral movement was so explosive that Booker simply couldn't find an inch of daylight. To be honest, he might be the fastest lateral mover in the league right now, a bold claim, but the evidence was right there. Despite this elite defense, the Lakers failed to score on their next possession, and the Suns returned to the attack with Booker still struggling. After another forced three-pointer missed the mark, the Lakers pushed the pace, and Wong buried a transition 3 to cut the lead to 5. As the Suns moved back up the court, Chris Paul noticed that Booker was losing his cool and realized he had to intervene. He knew his young star needed to settle down, and since the team hadn't scored in a while, Paul decided it was time to take over. This is where Paul's veteran experience truly shines. When the offense is flowing, he acts as the ultimate facilitator, perfectly delivering the ball to his teammates. Instead of handing the ball to Booker this time, he gave him a specific gesture, signaling for the young man to keep his head in the game. He pressed his hand down through the air, a silent command to stay calm, and Booker, who deeply respected Paul, took the hint. Though he was still frustrated by Wong's relentless defense, Booker knew he needed to compose himself and stop demanding the ball. Instead, he set a screen for Paul. Meanwhile, the Lakers had swapped Drummond for Harrell to increase their overall mobility on the floor. With the team's agility now at its peak, the Lakers' strategy was to switch on every screen, which brought Wong directly onto Paul. Now we see Wong switching onto Paul, who had been watching closely and felt he already understood the young man's defensive tendency to jump early. Against a defender like that, Paul has 100 ways to exploit them. He suddenly spun toward Wong's right side to test his balance. Wong naturally moved right to counter the drive, but Paul only completed half the turn before quickly dropping his center of gravity. As Paul broke through the left, Wong scrambled to recover, but the veteran had already gained half a step of leverage on him. Paul gathered the ball with both hands, preparing to leap for a shot to bait Wong into the air, yet this time, the jump-happy defender stayed grounded. Paul was so confident he'd fooled him that he released the shot anyway, knowing a mid-range jumper for him is usually as easy as a layup. However, Wong only jumped the moment the ball left Paul's hands. Seeing this, Paul tried to lean back in midair to protect his shot. It wasn't enough, as Wong's fingertips grazed the ball, sending it flying 2 meters into the air in a desperate arc. The ball fell weakly, like a spent force, leaving Paul to frown in confusion as to why this supposedly impulsive defender hadn't bitten on the fake. What he didn't know was that Wong wasn't actually impulsive. Despite not playing official games for 2 years, he hadn't been idle. Aside from training and sleeping, he had spent nearly every waking moment studying film and analyzing the habits of NBA players. He knew the technical moves, habits, and even the temperaments of every starter and rotation player across all 30 teams. To be honest, he likely understood these players better than their own coaching staffs did, so his defense was never based on luck. He only jumped against Booker because he knew it worked, but he knew Paul's height meant the veteran always preferred to fake before shooting. Because Paul usually fakes when he can't create space, Wong simply waited through the first shimmy without moving an inch. Only when Paul truly committed to the second jump did Wong rise to meet him, a feat that looks simple but is the result of years of study. Wong blocked the shot, but the ball fell right into the hands of their center, Aiton, who immediately turned toward the basket. Aiton prepared to shoot, but Wong was already there, timing his leap perfectly to meet the big man before the ball could even leave his hands. With a resounding smack, Wong swatted the ball away, but it flew straight toward Crowder, who caught it near the rim. Seeing no one between him and the hoop, Crowder rose for a dunk, only for Wong to appear in front of him with terrifying speed. Wong followed him up, leaping high with both hands raised in a volleyball-style block that met Crowder's dunk head-on. As the ball dropped, James snatched it and immediately launched one of his signature long-distance outlet passes to the breaking Kuzma. Kuzma finished it with a one-handed slam, and the arena erupted instantly like a volcanic explosion or a crashing tsunami. Even the roof of the Staples Center seemed to tremble under the roar, while we see Wong standing there after 3 consecutive blocks. He let out a thunderous roar, venting 2 years of pent-up frustration, before raising his right hand to wag his finger in the air. The commentators were losing their minds, screaming about the triple block and asking the world exactly what they were witnessing. They called him the mountain, not from Africa, but the mountain of Asia. To them, Wong was as insurmountable as Everest. In the streaming rooms, the live chat was completely buried under a flood of praise, and after the game, manager Pelinka came to find him. Wong assumed his performance was worth a $2 million guaranteed contract, but Pelinka told him his value went much further than that. She believed his potential was worth $5 million a year, though he would first need to finish this 10-day short-term stint. Pelinka wanted to see a few more games, promising that even if he didn't maintain this elite level, the $2 million was still his. A guaranteed contract was finally his, as that near game-winning shot proved he was worth it. He hadn't let her down, and 2 days later, we see the Lakers facing off against Phoenix. The Suns' Devin Booker started the game on fire, hitting 6 consecutive three-pointers in just the first 5 minutes of play. It looked like a repeat of last year's playoffs where Booker dismantled the Lakers alone, and the home crowd was growing restless. The fans began chanting for the coach to put Wong into the game, and eventually, Coach Vogel turned his gaze toward the bench. He hadn't planned on using Wong so early, but the situation was spiraling out of control before the rotations had even begun. And so, Wong entered the game against the wind, facing a Booker who looked like he could kill a god in his current state. To everyone's surprise, Wong immediately blocked Booker twice in a row, leaving the star completely dazed and forcing a Phoenix timeout. The Suns' coach tried to settle Booker's nerves, unaware that these 2 blocks were merely the appetizer for what was coming. The veteran Paul took control of the ball, assuming he could manipulate a newcomer like Wong with ease, but he was quite mistaken. Wong had completely read his playstyle, and as Paul released the shot, Wong's fingertips grazed the ball, causing it to drop short after barely 2 meters. The ball fell right into the hands of their center, Aiton, who immediately turned around to attempt a shot of his own. But Wong was already there, and before Aiton could even release the ball, he smothered the attempt with a crushing block right in his face. The ball flew straight toward Crowder, who saw the rim undefended and rose up for what he thought would be an easy dunk. However, with incredible speed, Wong shifted horizontally to meet Crowder head-on, leaping high with both hands raised like a wall. In a move reminiscent of a volleyball block, he met the dunk perfectly, and as the ball dropped, James snatched it up instantly. He launched one of his signature long-distance outlet passes to Kuzma, who was already breaking away for a powerful one-handed slam. The arena erupted like a volcanic explosion or a crashing tsunami, and even the roof of the Staples Center seemed to tremble under the roar. And there stood Wong, having delivered 3 consecutive blocks, letting out a thunderous roar as if finally releasing years of frustration. He raised his right hand, wagging his finger in the air 3 times, a silent message that his paint was strictly off-limits. The commentators were losing their minds, screaming about the triple block and asking the world exactly what they were witnessing. They called him the mountain, not from Africa, but the mountain of Asia. To them, Wong was as insurmountable as Everest. In the streaming rooms across the ocean, the live chat was completely buried under a flood of praise, the screens practically exploding with excitement. The analysts, Kufan and Yang Yi, were equally amazed, noting that his defense seemed to have reached an even higher level than the last game. He had blocked Booker twice, Paul once, Aiton once, and then Crowder, 5 blocks in just the first 5 minutes of play. At only 1.92 m, his shot-blocking ability was extraordinary, but his lateral speed was what truly stood out to the experts. It was that speed that left Booker with no way to break through, making everyone even more eager to see what would happen next. Just then, the broadcast cut to the referee, who was signaling a technical foul, much to the surprise of the commentary team. They wondered what could have possibly happened to Warren T while the cameras were busy following Harold on the fast break. We didn't see the incident live, but fortunately, the replay was ready almost immediately to show us the truth. We see Wong, after delivering those 3 consecutive blocks, wagging his finger in the air, a gesture that Kafan immediately recognizes as the iconic finger wag. As Wong wags his finger following that defensive masterclass, Yang Yi shakes his head, remembering that in the entire history of the NBA, only Dikembe Mutombo was ever officially granted permission to wag his finger for Wong, whose second short-term contract is worth only $20,000. This technical foul comes with a $25,000 fine, hardly worth the cost, though Kafan suspects James might just cover the bill. Predictably, the critics who had gone quiet suddenly resurface, claiming his lack of respect on the court reflects a poor character. They go so far as to label him a terrible person, simply because of a bit of competitive fire. Despite the technical foul, the Suns take their free throw. After Paul converts it, they retain possession and attempt to launch another attack. This time, their offense is met with another massive block from Wong, sending the ball flying into the stands and setting the arena on fire once again. The system's blocking card theoretically raises his success rate to 50%, but combined with his deep knowledge of the player's habits, the actual probability is even higher. Moments later, he returns to the other end and sinks a three-pointer while being fouled. It becomes a 4-point play as he calmly sinks the free throw, completely erasing the deficit and leveling the score. As the first quarter comes to a close, the commentators in the NBA broadcast booth, including Yang Yi, can hardly believe the shift. It is as if the Suns coach realizes that even if the alternative is risky, he has to try a different strategy to stop the bleeding. After finishing his instructions, the coach's gaze drifts, almost involuntarily, toward the far end of the Lakers bench. The Suns had been in a perfect position until this one man stepped onto the court and turned everything into a waking nightmare for them. The strategy now is simple, if a bit ruthless. They need to shut him down, break his rhythm, and get him out of the game. The mantra repeats in their minds. They must stop him, by any means necessary, to regain control of the match. Perhaps demoralized by the triple block, the Suns' momentum collapses. They can't hit from the perimeter, and even their dunks are rattling out. With 3 minutes left in the half, the Lakers lead by 12. Wong returns to the floor, immediately logging 2 more blocks. He adds 2 more three-pointers for good measure, and by the time the buzzer sounds for halftime, the Lakers have surged to a 20-point lead. The commentators are buzzing with excitement, noting that while the game initially looked like a repeat of last year's Game 6, everything changed the moment Wong stepped onto the court. Now, the Lakers lead by 20 points, and Wong hasn't just shifted the momentum. He has completely flipped the script. We can only wait for the second half to see if Wong can maintain this incredible level of play. Down in the front row, at VIP seat 124, we see the legendary Jack Nicholson watching through his iconic tinted glasses. His eyes reflect a newfound intrigue. This young man from the East keeps delivering surprises, and perhaps he is the hope for a Lakers revival. Meanwhile, in the visitors' locker room, the atmosphere among the Suns players has grown noticeably somber. To be honest, they've faced 20-point deficits before, more than once, in fact, so they shouldn't be this discouraged. But today feels different. Ever since that Lakers #1 entered the game, they have felt themselves sinking into a deep abyss. They see no chance to close the gap. They can't score, and they can't stop him. Even their star, Devin Booker, sits in silence. Booker keeps his head down, buried under a towel, until the veteran Paul begins clapping his hands loudly to snap them out of it. Paul demands to know if they've already given up, asking if they want to be called cowards, or if they remember how they eliminated this team last year. He reminds them that they turned the defending champions into losers back then, so why should they feel intimidated now? Paul is, without question, one of the most competitive and spirited players in the NBA, and his words slowly start to take effect. The players begin to find their resolve, though a simple pep talk might not be enough to overcome such a massive lead. Sensing this, Coach Williams turns his gaze toward Crowder, telling him he needs to shut that Eastern player down in the third quarter. When he says shut him down, he isn't just talking about defense. He means provocation, irritation, and perhaps even a few flagrant fouls. Back when he was with the Heat, Crowder was known for making opponents suffer. He is the kind of villain fans love to hate. Players might despise facing him, but every team that wants to win needs a person willing to do the dirty work. He follows in the footsteps of players like Bruce Bowen, Draymond Green, or Zaza Pachulia, men who play right on the edge. Crowder understands his mission perfectly, giving his coach a simple, okay, gesture as he prepares for the next round. He tells his teammates to leave that Eastern player to him, assuring them that he'll handle it the moment the third quarter begins. The Lakers maintain their lineup from the first quarter, but Schroeder seems a bit distracted, playing only 3 minutes before trouble starts. After committing 2 turnovers, he is subbed out by the coach, and you return to the court, now firmly established in the rotation. On the bench, Tucker looks a bit dejected. He was originally supposed to be in this rotation, but your stellar performance has changed things. His playing time has been heavily squeezed, but such is the cold reality of competitive sports. You either perform or you get replaced. All he can do is train harder and seize any small opportunity that comes his way, rather than just sitting on the bench. He He shouldn't waste time complaining like a victim, while Schroeder's gaze wanders off court, leaving us wondering what exactly is on his mind. Once you're back on the court, your three-point shooting isn't quite as explosive as the last two games, but you still maintain a solid 45% average. Since you're still shooting better than most, the Suns are forced to abandon their zone defense and tighten their coverage. This shift opens up the lane for the Lakers, allowing James to drive to the basket 3 times in a row. Caruso joins in with a drive of his own as the offense clicks inside and out, while the Suns suffer 2 more blocks at your hands. With Booker's rhythm gone and his drives shut down by your defense, the rest of the Suns roster begins to lose their shooting touch. Paul manages to sink 2 mid-range jumpers, but against the Lakers' relentless tide, he is a lone tree trying to hold back a forest. As the lead approaches 30 points, the Lakers go on the attack again, and you move through screens to find an opening beyond the arc. Sensing the referee's attention is fixed on the ball handler, Crowder sneakily grabs your arm and gives it a sharp, hidden yank. Startled, you go with the momentum and fall heavily to the floor. It was a wise move to drop, considering the force he used. Had you resisted Crowder's strength, your right shoulder might have been dislocated, but your fall sends him stumbling forward as well. He hits the ground too, immediately complaining to the official that you were the one who committed a foul and played dirty. It's a classic case of the villain playing the victim, and since the referees were watching the perimeter, they missed the entire exchange. The baseline official signals for play to continue, so you get up, shake out your arm, and keep running with Crowder hot on your heels. Every now and then, Crowder resorts to dirty little tricks, the most hidden being a sharp pinch to the waist, just like a cruel villain in a drama. We see that our protagonist has studied Crowder's game. He knows these weren't originally his moves, as Chris Paul is the one famous for such tactics. Because Paul isn't the tallest player on the court, he often uses these subtle, hidden gestures to gain an advantage while defending. These pinches are incredibly painful and serve to distract an opponent, especially in the heat of a high-stakes professional game. Crowder mutters a low curse and continues the harassment for 2 more minutes. By now, your waist is covered in bruises, but Crowder isn't faring much better. Being a darker-skinned man, the marks on his skin aren't quite as obvious, but in reality, he is already sporting several deep purple bruises. This is his chosen method for dealing with a dirty player, fighting fire with fire. To be honest, there's no point talking about sportsmanship here. Crowder's hidden movements are nearly impossible for the officials to catch, so complaining to the referee would be utterly useless. In a situation like this, one can't simply take the hits without fighting back, as Crowder chases him down once more. During their entanglement, he delivers a sharp, powerful pinch right back to Crowder's waist, while Crowder is momentarily stunned by the pain. He quickly sprints beyond the 3-point line, catches the ball, and sinks a shot. Crowder clutches his side, cursing furiously under his breath. He catches up to you and growls that things are about to get ugly for the Easterner. This silent, painful dialogue between the two of you continues. The movements are so small that the other 8 players on the court have no idea what's happening, let alone the referees. Crowder is absolutely fuming now. His original plan was to pinch the newcomer to provoke an emotional outburst. Since the Eastern player already has 1 technical foul, Crowder hoped to goad him into throwing a punch or losing his cool. Even a simple verbal insult would lead to a second technical and an ejection. But instead of getting angry, the young man remains calm. Not only did he pinch Crowder back with agonizing precision, but he also kept hitting 3-pointers right in Crowder's face. This is truly starting to get under Crowder's skin. As he watches you retreat on defense, a much darker plan begins to take shape in his mind. He raises his right hand high, making it look like a standard block attempt, but his real target is your face, and he swings with everything he has. Because Crowder uses such excessive force, you are swatted right out of the air and sent crashing violently toward the hardwood floor. Crowder finally feels a sense of relief after venting his frustration, but before he can even celebrate, a piercing pain radiates from between his legs. In that split second, it feels as if the entire world has vanished, or rather, everything else in his world simply ceases to exist. The only thing remaining is pain, a deep, bone-chilling agony, because our protagonist understood exactly how dirty Crowder could be. He knew that when Crowder couldn't stop him fairly, he would resort to dangerous fouls, so he had been bracing for this exact moment. As Crowder swats him down and his upper body falls toward the floor, he times his movement perfectly, extending his right leg. He kicks directly into Crowder's groin. Is it a dirty move? Absolutely. But when an opponent stops playing basketball and starts playing dirty, one can hardly be expected to remain a polite gentleman with a smile on their face. To be honest, some players deserve nothing less. At most, a referee might eject a player like Crowder and issue a fine, but that rarely stops them from doing it again next time. A single malicious move like that can end a career, so there was no reason for the young man to be merciful in his retaliation. Now, overwhelmed by the sudden agony below the belt, Crowder clutches himself and collapses, rolling across the hardwood in pure misery. Our protagonist, having prepared for the impact, makes the fall look devastating, though his left hand actually cushioned the landing. He feels a slight sting, but he doesn't get up immediately. Since Crowder started this, and is still down, the victim must stay down too. Getting up now might make the referees sympathize with Crowder, so he decides it's time to put on an award-winning performance. He clutches his waist, gritting his teeth and biting his lip while pounding the floor with his left hand as his teammates rush over. They ask if he's all right, but he doesn't answer, acting as if he's in too much pain to speak, while the crowd falls into a hushed silence. On the sidelines, Dudley sees the hit and tries to storm the court to defend his teammate. After all, that is his job on the Lakers. However, the assistant coaches grab him and hold him back, knowing that if bench players enter the court, it's an automatic technical foul. Caruso also wants to stand up for his friend, but he pauses when he sees Crowder writhing and rolling on the floor in genuine distress. He looks on with confusion, wondering if the guy is faking it. After all, Crowder was the one who swatted the young man out of the air. Just then, the arena's big screen shows the replay. The fans see Crowder aiming directly for the face, and the crowd erupts in fury. The crowd's outrage is palpable, with fans shouting that Crowder is a killer who belongs in prison rather than on a basketball court. They demand he be ejected, but then, the replay captures the moment our protagonist's right leg extends toward Crowder's groin during the fall. A collective gasp ripples through the arena, and the men in the audience, in particular, seem to feel a sympathetic phantom pain for Crowder. However, the mood shifts quickly to cheers. Many feel that if they were in Wong's shoes, they would have done the exact same thing. On the court, teammates from both sides rush to check on the fallen players, with the Lakers asking Wong exactly where it hurts. Clutching his waist, Wong tells them his back is the main issue, though he adds, quite convincingly, that everything hurts right now. His teammates ask if he can stand, but Wong doesn't answer immediately, instead stealing a quick glance toward the Suns' bench. Seeing that Crowder has already been helped up and is seated, Wong finally says he thinks he can manage if they help him up. With his teammates supporting him, he begins to move his body slowly, testing his limbs as if checking for broken bones. Gradually, his agony seems to subside, while the referees huddle at the monitor to review the footage from every possible angle. It's clear that Crowder committed a flagrant foul by swinging at Wong's face, but the officials are now scrutinizing Wong's retaliatory kick. They need to decide if it was intentional or accidental, and surprisingly, it doesn't take them long to reach a final verdict. The lead official signals a flagrant one on Crowder, meaning Wong will be awarded 3 free throws for the shooting foul. With the technical added, he gets 4 shots in total, plus possession for the Lakers, a sequence that could change everything. When the Suns players and coaching staff hear the ruling, they are absolutely stunned, throwing their hands up in disbelief. They argue that their player is also injured and that the kick was clearly deliberate. Paul, in particular, looks ready to devour the referee. Paul chases after the official, pointing at Wong and complaining that the move was far too dirty to be ignored. He insists such a player shouldn't be on the court, but the referee ignores the complaints and issues a stern warning to the Suns bench. In the broadcast booth, a veteran official explains that from a technical standpoint, the movement appeared to be a natural physical reaction. Since Wong was in the middle of a fadeaway jumper, his leg would naturally extend forward to maintain balance as Crowder lunged in. As Wong was sent crashing toward the floor, his extended right leg lifted just a bit higher, purely to maintain his balance, of course. It was a natural, instinctive reaction of the body, so while he objectively harmed Crowder, there was no subjective intent behind it. Crowder had invaded Wong's original cylinder, and though Wong moved, he remained within his own space during the contact. We see the officials conclude that Wong committed no foul, and as he sits on the bench, teammates suggest he head to the locker room for an exam. But he simply shrugs his shoulders and tells them that while he appreciates the concern, he feels much better and his condition is great. The team doctor falls silent upon hearing this, and the surrounding teammates find themselves in a bit of a dilemma, especially James. Having done his fair share of flopping, James knows the tricks of the trade. He wears a knowing smile as he pats Wong's shoulder. He tells his teammate, "Good job," noting that competitive sports are all about the results, provided one doesn't cross the ultimate line. In the pursuit of victory, you do what is necessary. Everyone knows Miller pushed off on Jordan, but that didn't change the final score. The rest of the teammates breathe a sigh of relief knowing he isn't truly injured, and after catching his breath, Wong heads to the line. He prepares for his 4 free throws, and with a season average of 88%, he calmly sinks every single one of them. The Lakers retain possession, and Wong curls around a screen to catch the ball just as a recovered Crowder rushes over to contest. Holding the ball with both hands, Wong looks Crowder right in the eye with a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. Crowder sees that look and realizes the smile is anything but friendly. A sudden chill seems to rise from his lower body. It's as if that piercing pain from moments ago has returned. He tries to block the shot, but he's clearly afraid to get too close. It's a symbolic defense at best, posing no pressure at all, and the ball sails over Crowder's head before snapping through the net. Between the 4 free throws and this three-pointer, he scored 7 points in a single possession, pushing the lead to 33. The Suns are forced to call another timeout, with only 2 minutes remaining in what has become a very long third quarter. During the break, Paul claps his hands to motivate his team, specifically urging Booker to step up and hold his ground. He tells Devin that he is the future leader of this franchise and must stand tall, but the Suns' momentum has already vanished. We see that Crowder, in particular, has lost all of his previous defensive aggression. Every time he steps up to guard, he seems hesitant. He doesn't dare to press too closely anymore, as if that kick left a psychological shadow, and with that, the Suns' momentum has vanished. The Lakers smoothly secure the victory, with James finishing the game with an impressive stat line of 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists. It is another near triple-double, a nightmare for perfectionists, proving once again that he is the cornerstone of the team regardless of the outcome. The Lakers rely on his steady production, but the true hero of this game is undoubtedly Wong, who played 26 minutes off the bench. He racked up a double-double with 28 points and 10 blocks, shooting 7 for 10 from the three-point line and 5 for 5 on free throws. With a perfect 1-for-1 on 2-pointers, his efficiency is nothing short of terrifying, especially from deep, proving he is a truly elite shooter. After the final buzzer, Paul doesn't stick around to shake hands or pay his respects to the Lakers players. He turns and heads straight for the tunnel, not even stopping to say goodbye to his close friend James, which is understandable, in a way. He is a fiercely competitive player, and after a crushing 30-point defeat, he is naturally in no mood for post-game pleasantries. The post-game interview naturally focuses on Wong, who handles the reporters' questions with his usual calm and polished composure. After he finishes his shower, James invites him to the press conference, and this time, Wong doesn't decline the opportunity. Few players would turn down a seat at the main podium, and meanwhile, the Suns' press conference is already underway in the media room. Paul, Booker, and Crowder are the ones facing the crowd, answering a series of routine questions about the game's outcome. Eventually, a reporter directs a question specifically to Crowder regarding the incident where he and Wong fell to the floor together. The reporter notes that while Crowder hit Wong's face, Wong kicked his hip, leading to a flagrant 1 foul against Crowder. Crowder shakes his head and insists that he was clearly going for the ball and only hit Wong's face by accident. He claims Wong's move was intentional and dirty, arguing he should have been ejected. Now that the pain has faded, his bravado has returned. He begins to speak without restraint, but the reporter continues, pointing out what the replays actually showed. The ball was clearly well above his head, yet his first instinct with both hands wasn't to reach up and block the shot at all. Instead, he swung directly at Wong's face, leading many to call the move intentional, and when asked for an explanation, Crowder seems momentarily flustered. He glares at the reporter, snapping that since they aren't him, they can't know his thoughts, before insisting they go question the Easterner instead. The reporter simply shakes his head, pointing out the obvious irony. If the reporter can't know Crowder's mind, how can Crowder be so sure of Wong's? Left utterly speechless by the logic, Crowder lets out a cold snort and refuses to answer any more questions before abruptly getting up and storming out. Walking out mid-press conference is considered a sign of deep disrespect in the NBA and usually carries a fine, but at this point, Crowder clearly doesn't care. Not long after they depart, we see James and Wong enter the room, and the reporters' cameras immediately erupt into a frantic storm of flashes. Wong has been to press conferences before, but the sheer intensity of this media frenzy is a first, a true taste of the exposure that comes with being a Laker. As a legendary powerhouse based in a massive city like Los Angeles, the Lakers naturally command far more attention than any small market team ever could. In this environment, good performance guarantees stardom, and as Wong and James take their seats, the reporters prepare to dive into their questions.